Hey everybody, and happy Saturday. Welcome to AOS Up and Coming. This is sort of a weekend recap of the past week, but really today, Steven, Brad, and I, who I'll bring in here in a second, we're actually going to be recapping everything that's happened with releases for all the previews for all the factions. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's bring in Brad and Steven just right out of the gate, because we have a lot to get through today. So, Brad, Steven, how's it going?
Going well.
It's going good.
Yeah. Okay. So today, oh man, just let me resize this ever so slightly so we don't even see the little ad there. Okay. So today, I thought what we would do is anger the community by ranking all of these previews, every preview that has ever happened in the past month. We've all kind of been going through them. But before we do that, just a little bit of bookkeeping. And we especially want to hear from Brad on this. We did not get to Khorne yesterday. And in fact, to show that, when you guys look down here and see all the little images I have, I used the ghosted out one for Khorne that says up next. So it's all black and white and sad. We didn't get to. We had some technical issues. It looks like we've solved those technical issues. I was a little worried, but we would have known by now, I believe. So I think we're good. Okay, Brad, we did not get to Khorne. Tell me your overall thoughts. We had a little bit of time yesterday for a gut check, but I think that was kind of about it. So how are you feeling about Khorne?
Yeah, I think to recap real quick, the gut check, I think it was along the same lines of a lot of the previews that we saw, where it was mainly a story of taking the core rules from the army from 3rd edition, the core identity, keeping that, but then streaming it down, getting kind of stripping off a lot of the extraneous stuff. So Blood Tithe is still there. A couple of the most impactful abilities in Blood Tithe are still there. So Khorne will still play like Khorne. But then I think what gets me most excited is that they've gone and revisited all the War Scrolls. In fact, when they first were unveiling 4th edition and they were saying, hey, we lined up every single model and we looked at them, we said, what should this thing do? When I was getting excited about that, what I had in my mind was Khorne, because that was one of the things that I always felt was kind of a bummer sometimes when you were putting stuff on the table and you're like, why does this Bloodletter with a 2-inch long sword
do 2 damage,
have 1-inch reach? Why does he only have 1 attack? Like, what do you do? And they've gone and they've streamlined all that stuff. The Bloodthirster is terrifying.
The 5 damage guy?
Yeah, 5 attacks, 5 damage.
Yeah.
Hits on 3s now. He hit on 4s since I think the beginning, like 1st edition. And that was. He had this big axe, but you would just like whiff half the time. So it's the size of a school bus. It now hits like you were actually smacking somebody with a school bus.
Yeah.
That's super exciting. They've also decided now, we've seen all the demons. It seems like all demons get ward saves. Like the lesser demons get 6-up ward and greater demons get a 5-up ward. That's such a huge gain for Khorne, because it means you'll feel better about just throwing them into combat.
Yeah.
And not just dying on the crackback. And you want to throw 2 into combat, and the second one might actually survive before it gets to swing. So yeah, pretty excited overall. The sub-faction is also really cool because it's the first time they say the demons and mortals get to hold hands and fight the battle together. And then having one trigger off the other is just a really powerful ability.
Exciting. That's actually very exciting. That was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really helps Khorne's playstyle, where it helps the part of the playstyle I really wanted to see get better, where you just push your guys forward. Because now you'll be able to fight with 2 of them before the opponent gets to swing, and you're not just going to get punished for it. So, yeah, overall, I think I'm pretty excited about Khorne. There's a lot more to see. Some of the abilities that went missing in the battle traits, who knows? They might show up on a hero. Khorne certainly has an abundance of foot dorks that kind of don't have a job, and it could be that the job for one of them is, I hate magic, and you get the spell shrug on him, or whatever.
I think we're actually going to see a lot of that edition wide as we start to see more War Scrolls. We're going to be like, oh, there's where that ability went. I think there's going to be a lot of that happening. Yeah, I think Khorne looks interesting. it seems to me like they did a good job of making them still not quite Destruction Army. It doesn't look like, from what we saw, they don't do much on the charge. They just, when they get into combat, they're methodical, they fight, they've got that 3-inch move thing that they can use while they're still in. Can they actually use that? Can they use the 3-inch if they're in combat? Yeah, right?
It's a move. I think it says they have to not be in combat. I don't have it right in front of me right now.
Okay.
The interesting thing is it's a move, but it's not a core ability, so you can do it. You can move and then move with Murderlust. Like, it's really flexible, and I don't think on first read we quite have grasped like all the ways that Murderlust can be used.
So. Okay. Anyway, by the way, Soups, thanks for gifting membership. We appreciate that as always. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us today. So, should we jump in and just go down the order that I have them here in this, which would make Khorne first?
Sure.
Now, okay, let's set a little bit of criteria aside here, and we know we're going to make people angry because we know we're going to get this wrong, so to speak. Okay, but a little bit of criteria that we wanted to do here. First, it's sort of based off. It's not exactly based off how good we think the faction is, although that's certainly part of it. It's sort of more so based off of how excited are you to play this faction. And let's not kid ourselves. Like, even when we're not competitive players, nobody really is excited to play a bad faction. Very few people. I'm sure that there are people like that, but so that's something to keep in mind. We're saying, when you saw this, were you like, wow, that looks fun, I play that faction, I'm excited, or wow, I might play that faction because of how exciting it looks in 4th Ed. Does that, gentlemen, are we good with that criteria? Brad?
Yeah.
Based on what we know and like the limited information we have, I think it is more of they seem fun, their faction rules seem interesting, like something I'd like to play. It's hard to really base it on war scrolls because we've only seen like 3.
Right? Well, that's also part of the issue, is that some previews, there were, Brad, you and I even talked about this with Sylvaneth, and some previews you were kind of like, yeah, we are missing information. Like, we wanted to see what the Warsong Revenant did, for example. Like, we know whatever the Warsong Revenant does for Sylvaneth, it's going to be big, but we didn't get that War Scroll, so we don't know what he does, right? We don't know if a Tree Lord Ancient comes with a free tree at the start of the game. That would actually be kind of big. So there's a lot of missing information. That's fair, Stephen. Okay, and we know how this... Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, and then some of the armies historically have been, like, it's been their enhancements, or their spell wars that really define them. And we've only seen 1 spell per faction, and we haven't seen any enhancements at all. Hero traits or artifacts. So, Sylvaneth was another one of those. So, yeah. I think hype tier list makes a lot of sense. Like, what are we excited about?
What are we excited about? Okay. Let's start with Blades of Khorne. Where are you guys? Give me the pros, give me the cons. We did just kind of chat them a little bit. Where are we putting these?
Steven, I'll give you a chance to weigh in. How excited are you to play against Khorne?
To die to Khorne.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like Khorne. I thought their control-y type playstyle that they gave them at the end of 3rd was interesting, and it definitely made them powerful. I don't think anyone was expecting that. I don't anticipate them losing that. I think the evidence we've seen suggests they're still going to have that as part of their package. But I do think they've got killier. Like, the Bloodthirsters definitely seem more like murder demons now. I'd say A. I don't know if they'll be top tier because I've no idea how they're going to interact with magic, like how powerful their prayer law is going to be. I think that's going to be a huge deal. How good their 18,000 foot heroes are. Like, are they going to be good or are they just going to be jank, right? So, yeah, I think A, because I think based on they were very powerful in 3rd edition and their book was fairly recent. And their faction abilities seem really good, like just universally, like all of those abilities are great. You definitely looks like you're gonna have to take some chaff to get murdered horribly.
To get your blood tithe points.
Yeah, you're gonna need them. which is fine. I feel like that's corny. I think things should die in a game with Khorne. So yeah, I don't know. I think I think they're pretty hype. I think they're gonna be cool.
Yeah, I think I'd also put him in A. I was excited about what I saw. It was pretty straightforward. Like we lost the Spell Shrug, which was a really great way to generate Blood Tithe. So that'll be an interesting. What other sources do we have?
Right, they might just get a prayer, like get D3 Blood Tithe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've always had that. They always had and that'll probably be one of the prayers. So you'll be relying a little bit more on like doing active things to generate it. I'll say the thing. What we've seen now, what would actually bump me up into S is because they mentioned that in one of the early things at the battle regiments when they're talking about army construction, they mentioned specifically Bloodbound is going to be one of the ways that you'll have heroes be able to bring other heroes in their regiment. So, and that's always been one of Khorne's things in Mortals, like that you've got your mighty lord, and then he's got his retinue of other heroes. If those all actually end up being in all good or fun, then I'm super excited about it because they've never been good or fun. And then just it may even be, I when I say good, it doesn't even have to be good, it just has to be fun. Like if that's fun and I could bring like a retinue of like 8 idiots just flailing around with their axes and swords and having a good time doing it, then that's Khorne is for me is S tier hype.
The hero regiment would be dope if you could take like Kurgus Cool and the boys, and it's like, this is my regiment, and we're gonna, it's like a Eldritch Council scenario, but for Khorne, and they're just like a bunch of dudes that go around slapping together. That could be fun.
Yeah, they're like the super friends and like the Khorne Avengers, and each one of them's got their like one superpower.
Khorne Avengers. Okay, I want the Khorne Avengers. I need
Khorne Avengers. Now. The opposite goal of the actual Avengers.
So that's where I'm sitting with them.
Okay.
It'd be S for me if if they announced Kurgus Cool was becoming a demon prince and he was a new model, then I'd be like S tier immediately because that boy deserves a glow up.
Okay, this is so if Steven and Brad agree, I'm just gonna put it where they go. If Steven and Brad disagree, I'll reserve the right to side with one or the other. Or if
you can be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'll be the tiebreaker.
The president.
Or if they disagree so badly that it's like S to D, then I'm just probably gonna put it in B. I'll split the difference. Okay. All right. The other thing, my other role here today is I'm gonna give you guys some key reminders on some key things that you might have forgotten for some of these older ones. For example, Cities was like 3 weeks ago. So if you don't remember some of the cool things about Cities, because right out of the gate, I think Cities kind of fell in the middle. No one was like, ugh, and no one was like, wow, that's gonna be really cool. Also, not a lot of people actually have this army, to be fair. A lot of people think they have a version of this army because they have some of the models from when they were in middle school, but they don't really have the full army. Okay, so remember, they have this Alphacar's Order ability, and it's similar to what they have now. They have the 3-inch move, and if it's a human, 2 different humans can do it. Suppressing fire, remember, that's one of the key ones I want to bring out because you could do that in your opponent's turn with the command ability. What is it called? Covering fire. You could make covering fire, suppressing fire, and in your opponent's turn, give something that they're probably going to charge with strike last. And they're just like, oh, well, that's not fun. That changes my plans a bit. Remember, there's also strike. You give yourself strike last to get a 5-up ward. And then the last one was strike them down, which is add 1 to your attack's characteristic of a weapon. So looking back in time, we got Talia's sheet. You know what we got? Here's one last one I want to bring up. The Fusel Major. He's basically a Tau marker light now. If this guy hits something, actually, he doesn't have to hit. He just has to target something. This guy targets something, the rest of your army gets +1 to hit. And this is an army that hits on 4. I weirdly, like 2 months ago, was like, you know what? I bet this guy's going to be good in 4th. So I bought one because he's so bad right now. So I bought one. I'm glad I did because, I mean, wow. Like, just giving a shooting army all +1. Okay, so Your thoughts. Steven, start us off. What do you remember? How are you feeling about cities?
B.
B. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're middle of the road. I think they've got some good abilities. I think they're like the fact that if you take 4 heroes, you can basically just use all of the abilities every turn is pretty cool. As long as you've got like you just need someone who hasn't done one yet, which I think you're gonna take 4 heroes in this army. I agree. I like the glow up of the dude in the little tower, the crow's nest tower.
Yeah.
I think that model is sick, and I can't believe they made it bad in the original. I'm like, what are you doing? This model is incredible. Why are you not making everyone slam 2 of these into every army, you nutcases?
GW overrates a few abilities that the rest of us seem to be like, what are you thinking? And one of them is that
I love that model.
I know. One of them is that like weird ability they have to target a particular model and maybe like on a 5-up kill it.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah, so I'm glad that got a glow up. Yeah, I don't know. I think the cavalry unit is incredible. I think the cavalry war scroll is legit. Like big move, 3-up save, good on charge, like
mortals on the charge.
3 wounds.
We're not really seeing mortals on the charge. Yeah, they look.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that they're keeping it to cavalry, to be honest, because I'm sick of everyone else having it and cavalry not. So I'm glad that cavalry are kind of getting the thing that cavalry should have. So yeah, but I just think middle of the road. I just think they're a solid B right now.
What I will say is interesting about the Free Guild cavalry is they're one of the few cavalry units I've seen that doesn't have an anti-infantry, or usually cavalry have been getting this +1 rend against infantry. They don't have that. Instead, they have this for each model in this unit roll die after the charge and a 4-up 1 mortal wound. It's probably better.
And they just get flat +1 damage on the charge, so they're just generically good against everything they charge. So
they are hitting on 4 though.
Yeah. Well, they are, they are guys. They're just dudes, but there's ways to buff it. Yeah, but they have 5 attacks a model. I don't know. These guys are great.
Yeah, I think so too. Brad, what do you think?
I think they're great for what they are. They're great for dudes on horses, like fighting monsters, right? They're not crazy, but they shouldn't be. And I think they'll be fairly, cheap, and you'll be able to take a bunch of them. Like 10 of these. I remember even in 3rd edition, 10 of these buffed up was pretty scary.
Yes.
Like they deal with things. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the army. The only thing that wouldn't push me up hyping it, but that's more of a preference, is I think the things we've seen still kind of value and favor a kind of a static battle line style of play where you want to have a front line, you want to be receiving charges and holding the line and then doing counter charges, and like turtling up a little bit. It's not really something I'm super duper into from an army play style, but I think that's why I'd put them in B, because I just think they look good. I just don't know if I'd want to play them.
Same. That's how I felt. Brad, how are you feeling about cities?
Yeah, I think that stuff's going to be pretty flexible. I was going to agree with what you guys saying about cavalry. I think in this case, though, they also can double as just a mobile anvil. Given that they have a 3-up save and 3 wounds.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah, 3-up save and 3 wounds, and then they can receive that hold the line order and get a 5-up ward. And then they could. There's the marshal on the horseback that could give it to him. So you have someone who can be.
There's some good overlaps. In
also,
and synergies.
Also, the steel helms had that battle priest thing where they could try to turn an objective to give a 6-up ward. Well, now that's a 5-up ward. So Free Guild steel helms going on to objective can.
Yeah, they would get it because they're human.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Quite good.
So I'll give kind of a little bit of my scoring strategy here. Like, one is the cool stuff still does cool stuff. Bonus point, again, the Fusel Major, bonus point given for taking a cool model and giving it actually, that's the thing I'm always most excited about, when they say, oh, this thing that you really loved and just you kind of feel a bit of a goof for bringing it, and now you actually can feel like you can do it with pride. That's really great. He's a fun looking model. He's got fun rules. Really excited about that. I think the biggest thing is in condensing the battle traits, this is one of the ones where for me, the flavor and mechanics thing got better. Because it's only 1 page. It's only the 4 orders now, and everything else is gone. But they now found a way to have the elf and Dwarden specific stuff just fold into that in a really graceful way. It's you've got this cool order. If you're Dwarden, it gets a little bit better, but everyone gets to enjoy the cool order.
Yep.
And then the Dwarden don't feel like they're being left out. They get access to all the human stuff.
Yeah.
So that was just great. To me, that's perfect game design. And
Yeah, 'cause it felt like they were abandoning the elves and the dwarves with the book, right? They were just
Yeah.
like, okay, you kind of either double down on it or you take humans and you just do humans, which I think always kind of went against the lore of the Cities of Sigmar. So I like that they've reincorporated it and been like, nah, that was a mistake. You need to be able to take a hodgepodge mishmash of units and races to make this feel like right. And I like that they get little bonuses for it.
Yeah, I put them top of B, bottom of A.
right.
So
Listen.
they might get promoted to A.
I'm gonna promote
as
them to
we
A.
go.
I'm gonna promote them to A.
Okay.
I've played the
All right.
army a few times. I feel like it's honestly the Fusel Major pushing it over the top for me. So we'll see. I'm curious to see the Great Cannon, how that looks. If that got
Oh
better.
God.
I'm guessing.
I mean, the catapult kind of got good, and
Yeah.
that I'm like, so it's maybe this is the age of the siege weapons not being absolute trash. Who knows?
Okay, one of my favorite factions, Daughters of Cain. Do we need a little bit of a recap on some of the highlights here? So, recap number 1: Morathi is worse than ever if you are dealing with her. If for all the times you've never wanted to deal with Morathi, in this edition, you absolutely don't want to deal with her. Big Morathi hits bonkers hard at, let's see, basically doesn't degrade. Doesn't degrade. 8 attacks, 3/3, Rend 2, 3 damage, criticals, mortals, which means of those 8 attacks, every 6 is just 3 mortals right away. The Envenomed Tail, 3/3, 2 damage, or 2 Rend, 6 damage. And that's it. I mean, literally, it's just her profile is god awful to deal with. She still has her 3-up, not dying thing. And Little Morathi got a +1 to cast back, which is interesting. And she's a 3-cast wizard. Otherwise, the main kind of ideas here, Blood Rights is still a thing. And what changed with Blood Rights is round 5 is +1 to attack. It doesn't make their ward better like it used to. So Witch Elves, presumably 4 attacks on round 5. And we assume there's ways to get that better. And then finally, they have this weird new ability. This kind of surprised a lot of us. 1 CP, once per battle, any combat phase. Pick a friendly Daughters of Cain infantry unit. They get fight twice, but they have the strike last thing on the second time. What do you guys think?
So one thing to kind of clarify. So we've the embargo's been lifted, so we've seen the core rules now, and there's still some muddiness that's going to have to get straightened out with some other battle traits. But with this one, there's a paragraph that clearly explains that if you have a once per battle ability that a unit uses, in the declare step, if it says pick a unit to use this ability, that once per battle is once per unit. So you'll be able to use that once per battle for every unit in your army at some point in the game.
Which changes,
you might be able to...
changes this significantly.
Oh, so when it says once per battle, it means the unit can use it once per battle, not the army can use it once per battle.
What it states in the core rules is that if the ability says pick a unit to use the ability, it's once per battle for that unit. Pretend like this ability is on every unit's war scroll. If it says pick a unit and that unit is the target, you, the player, are the one who are using that ability, and therefore it's only once per battle for you, the player, which means it's only once per battle for the
army. So you have to track which units have used this across the whole game? That's kind of a pain in the ass.
Honestly, Steven, both players are going to remember. In this case, both players are going to remember.
So anyway,
that changes, I think, a lot of the previews.
It does. It does. Yeah.
We'll see some other examples later where it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense with what you said. But with this one, it's pretty clear every unit's going to be able to use it.
It's a CP.
Yeah, I think
it is a CP.
With a CP. Yeah. Again, this is another one where, like, at first it passes the test that their core identity is still the same. They still have the blood rights. They've always had the blood rights. The blood rights are still really good and really interesting. The play style is going to remain. Morathi, like I said, she's terrifying. I think one thing that we're going to have to watch out for, we've seen this on 3 or 4 of the different faction previews, is they'll show off a war scroll and then they'll just there's a cheeky little 10 control. There's a number of centerpiece models or god monsters who are like, oh yeah, they actually look at that. They actually capture like ogre monsters now.
Hers is 10. Hers is 10. Yeah.
Yeah, hers Shadow Queen's is 10. So that's a real legit thing. She's not just gonna go off and kill something. She's gonna capture points while she's doing it. Yeah. Yeah, I would put these. I'm gonna put Daughters of Cain, I think at the most solid of Bs. Again, it's another one where it's only because I can't put everything in A.
No, I know.
Yeah, it's. I would be totally excited to play against them. I don't feel like there's any super. I mean, Morathi still has the 3 damage cap, but honestly, she's a unit. It's a unit that makes sense for her. Like she's got the heart of a god.
Yeah.
So like it's got perfect flavor. Yeah, I'm gonna put them at solid B.
What are you thinking, Steven?
Maybe top of B.
In terms of hype, I would go C.
Okay.
Because I don't think they've changed. They're just the same.
The fight twice, right?
Yeah, but you had that before. They just put it on
phase.
an ability and made it a 1 per whatever. Like you used to get that for free with Morathi, right? And I don't think like Morathi's still killy. The units are still fragile. They haven't shown us bow snakes. I'm going to assume their range is about half or maybe slightly above half what it was because all shooting is going down.
We have seen bow snakes actually.
We have?
We've seen the spearhead. Yeah, and you're right. It's 18.
Oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. We have seen them.
Yeah, but the other thing they have now, Steven, is we're seeing this. I think Sentinels got this too. This is like an elf thing, where if they stay still, they get crits on modified hits of 5. And the Heartseeker is now 3 shots per bow, not 2.
Yeah, which is good.
But wounds on 4. But
But you're fishing for crits, so you're
kind
not,
of fishing
you're not
for
that bothered
crits.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. Like they haven't destroyed them. They seem like they'll still be good to play. But I think they're always going to be that super glass cannon-y. Like you're going to be picking up fistfuls of the witch elves, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to be. I don't know how excited I am to play against them. These are like for me. It's like I wish these were a bit more like Khorne. Like I wish they kind of had some tricksiness to them. I always feel like Morathi's whole deal is she's a manipulator. Right, she's always like shifting and changing things, and plans within plans within plans, and the army is just like put crazy ladies down, go burr, and it's like that's not really what I think about when I think about Morathi. I kind of expected more tricksiness to it, so I don't know. I'm just like, this is fine. I don't really care. I'm waiting for the Umbraneth, and these guys are just whatever. Like. These are the stopgap to Umbraneth for me, and they will always be the stopgap to Umbraneth. But Morathi's still dope. I hope when Umbraneth come out, I can ally her in because she's sick.
We'll put them.
I don't think I'm gonna get to.
It sounds like they're going to B. I'll break the tie. Obviously I like the army. I play the army. It's arguably my favorite army that I play. So we'll see. I think
I hope they get more varied builds. I think that's. I'd be hype if something they'd shown in here showed me that you weren't just gonna put 80 witch elves on the table and Morathi and just go. I want to see something else.
You're used to that because of me, but I mean, a lot of people do take snakes, and snakes are good and they look good.
Yeah, but that's barely different. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They just they just put Mind Razor on the unit, and the 10 snakes run across the board and kill your army. All the bow snakes do it from a distance. It's all the same. Like there's no real variance to it.
Okay, this brings us to I think maybe one of our first more thought ones we'll have to really think about. Tzeentch, Disciples of Tzeentch. How did you guys feel about Disciples of Tzeentch?
I quite liked it.
Yeah.
I like that they got the fire mechanic, like the whatever they called it, the Tzeentchy flame.
Weird
stuff.
flame.
Burning weird flame.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I liked that it kind of gave them this unique mechanic to play with. Kind of like, they always felt like they were missing that because, you had Khorne with its tithe points, and you had Slaanesh with its dice temptation, and Nurgle with its thingy. Like the fake dice were cool, but it didn't feel like it was in the game. It always felt like something you were doing, and you were just messing around as Tzeentch. Whereas I like that the flame kind of gives you these synergies and buffs to play with. Yeah, I don't know. I thought these looked cool.
Yeah, I think Tzeentch for me, it's. I'm excited about it, but it's excited going from a very low level. Like I have a Tzeentch army. I've only played it against Steven once. It will show up on the channel pretty soon because it is mostly painted. but it's because their playstyle before, like Tzeentch armies that were functional didn't look like armies. It was like 5 wizards and then a menagerie of kind of bizarre things just to kind of get in the way. And it's just not
I mean,
a
that
playstyle.
sounds exactly like a Tzeentch army. That sounds exactly how I would describe a Tzeentch army. It's 10 wizards and then a bunch of fuckos they brought to get in the way so the wizards can do stuff.
I still feel like that their model range is missing one key thing, and that is the Chaos Warriors who have dedicated themselves. They don't have their heavily armored guys. And, one would argue, well, that's because Tzeentch. Why would they have heavily armored guys? They're just
No.
always a thing.
They totally have heavily armored
Yeah.
guys. Like,
Yeah,
that makes
going
no
back
sense.
to the original Realms of Chaos books from the 80s, which is when I got my start. And, there everything, there was symmetry among all the gods. And like the Curseling is the only model that we have in the range that looks like what that should look like. And imagine an army of Curselings.
Oh, I would love a unit of those guys.
That would be amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and then give them a cavalry unit that's like actually like maybe they're mutated horses or something. I don't know. Like that's kind of what I feel like the model range is missing.
Yeah, I
the
agree.
rules now are a lot more interesting. There are 3 things that are, for me, that are exciting. I think the Weird Flame is cool. I'm really excited to see what else in the army interacts with that rule because it feels like it's going to. Kairos Fate Weaver is an amazing war scroll. I think one thing is that in match play, it's going to be the Kairos Fate Weaver show because he has probably one of the most busted traits on him, which is pick a battle tactic and do it again. It'll just be, what's the easiest battle tactic in the game? You did it, you get to do it twice.
Wait,
Just
I thought it
do
was you pick 2 and then you get to choose which one you succeed.
You get to pick one of 2 modes. You could either pick 2 and then get one.
Oh, you get to do both?
Or you could just say this one that I've already done or attempted.
Oh, that's amazing.
You could have already attempted it and done it. So it could be
that's crazy.
If there's a battle tactic that's like stand on a point and do a dance.
There's also a
then,
3 cast, which is pretty rare now, right? Like 3 cast is pretty mad.
His spell is awesome.
Yep.
He still has the when you roll casting roll, you turn your lowest d6 into your highest d6. It's just bonkers. So he's great. Almost maybe too great. But it's still like
we don't
until
know
we get
point
tired
yet,
of
Brad. We don't know.
Right,
point
right,
yet. He might
right.
cost a stupid amount.
He might be like
until we get tired of
450.
seeing him. I think he's cool. And then Pink Horrors. I'm not going to say they fixed them, but I feel like
they will never fix them. This wall scroll is perpetually changing, as it should, because it's Tzeentch.
Yeah,
Right? It's just the
They are
pure
never gonna
embodiment
get
of
this.
Tzeentch.
They're never gonna
There's
not
actually-
No,
change.
but this is closer. I agree, this is closer because they've just separated them completely. It's like, all right, we've tried this, it did not work.
We give up.
2 editions. Like, Zach, you missed. Me and Brad dealt with this for 2 whole editions. This has been a thing since the start of second.
I think they've been role playing. So like when you kill one Pink Horror War Scroll, it splits into 2 equally as horrible War Scrolls.
Every pink horror is technically its own individual war scroll unit.
So yeah, I think the big thing is I've painted up 30 Pink Horrors. I have not yet painted up 60 Blue Horrors and 60 Brimstone Horrors, but I'll be able to play them in 4th edition because I won't have to have painted up any Blue Horrors and Brimstone Horrors. I will, because they're probably going to be useful in their own right. But now I can just field the army I own.
I think they might. I'm going to be optimistic and say they might have fixed them now. They might have like separating the 2 units and making it purely a healing system as opposed to just keep having more people in the unit. I think they might have solved this.
Yeah. Well,
I'm hopeful. So for me, it would have been at C. That was my starting point. So for me, it's bumped up to probably the low Bs.
is that where you like it?
And for me, it's low Bs. Even though I am excited to play about them, I'm not like it's gone from like to like ooh,
Yeah. Yeah, they look fun.
Yeah, well, I need to see more. I will put them on the table, and we'll get to see them in action. But working on. It'll come when it comes. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with the B. I think they look fun, but I also agree. Yes, I would like the mortals to be significantly better and be able to be fielded as an army. And I want the cavalry, and I want the Chaos Warriors that look
Yeah, I definitely
cool.
want the Chaos Warrior guy with like a cool.
Yeah, but the
cool
Caracacolites are such a
glaive and-
great sculpt, and the Tzeentch, the Zangors on the I love that range. I love it so much. I hate the demons with an unbridled passion. I've never had a range where I love half of it 100%, and I hate half of it 100%. That's
Interesting.
Tzeentch.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think the lesser demons
Suck.
across the
They
board. I
all
think all the
suck.
lesser demons, yeah.
They are rubbish.
Okay.
The models are amazing.
That takes us to Flesh Eater Courts. Couple quick reminders. In some ways, they haven't changed too much.
Which we suspected this, right? Because they
Yeah.
came out so late. Like we were like, they're not changing these.
I think
very much.
I think honestly they got an FAQ.
They did.
To tone them down a little bit. You still get the Noble Deeds points. It's still the +1 attack if you have the Noble Deeds. If you have the 6, and they're still bringing guys back, but it's a little more chilled out now.
Yeah.
And they still have good healing.
They made Usharan like 100% an auto include because he now has the old army thing, the insanity stuff.
Yeah,
It's just on him now, and I think and he's also an absolute wrecking ball.
yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't take him now. I think he's insane.
Yeah, he's that's maybe an issue, but
No, I don't
he's-
think it is. I think we want people to take their big cool centerpieces. I think it's part of the fun of AOS is that everyone brings a kind of crazy godman to the game.
I suppose so. I don't hate it, but I hate how much of an auto include he might be.
Marathi? Much?
Same. I don't like that. I've really been enjoying my Krathusa daughters or no Marathi daughters. Honestly, no. Like I agree with you, Steven. They should be good, but I don't want them to be so good that you feel like you need them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's making you take them. I just think if you're talking, I'm just having a game with Brad or whatever, then yeah, maybe we're like, let's not bring the silly gods and let's give ourselves the handicap. But if I'm going to an event and I'm taking Flesh Eater Courts, guess what?
No, of
Usharan
course.
is in that list.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
Because to leave him on the table, to leave him on the side would be ridiculous because of what he brings.
okay. So, Steven, what do you give this one? What do you like for this?
I'd put these in. Well, again, if we're talking hype, they haven't changed. So there is no new hype really, because they are the same army. Apart from they've moved some things onto different scrolls, and we don't know what Gormain does, and he's the only thing I care about in this army is what does the Judgeman do, because the Judgeman is the best.
Okay.
So I'm like not hyped because I actually just sold all of my unbuilt Flesh Eater Courts. I was maybe gonna do the army. I kind of decided I'm not gonna do the army. So like my hype levels are like, maybe B. I don't really know. They haven't changed. They look the same. Don't know what the Judgeman does. I'm like, I'm not super hype.
Okay.
For me, Flesh Eater Courts has just always been one of the armies in the game that just never quite hit for me. Like, it was before it got the model refresh, it was just like Refugee from Warhammer Fantasy Battle.
Yeah.
All the guys look the same. I really love the reinvention of the army. The lore is awesome. The lore's always
the
been
lore's
awesome.
amazing.
The models actually reflect the lore now, which is really great. Usharan's amazing. Like all the new models are cool. The rules are more or less just kind of what we saw before but been like gone through like AOS 4, the transmutation machine.
Yeah, yeah.
So that bumps it to C for me.
Okay.
Seeking's purely about hype. They're fun enough to play against. I've played against them a couple times now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've played against 1.0 Flesh Eater Courts, and they were not fun to play against. So like, they
The Terra guy
gotten-
spam. I'm glad the Terra guy spam is dead.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Screw that army.
Terra guy spam is stupid. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
silly.
so for me, it's a solid C. I think they're cool. People who enjoy them totally enjoy them. It's more of just a personal. They don't quite do it for me.
Yeah.
There have to be a few armies in the game that don't inspire me
Yeah,
to
that
go
has to be
around.
something that Brad doesn't own.
Yeah, I think they're fun. I hope their core. Well, what John and I have kind of noticed about them playing them on stream. John's been playing them, I have not, but seeing the games, what we've been kind of noticing is that you can never say that the game is over with this army. Their ability to bring models back, which I call recursion, and is now being challenged openly by by Brett and Megan. That I'm using the term wrong because apparently it has a computer nerd connotation to it. What John and I say is recursion. It's too good. And late game, you'd be like, well, I don't know. You could bring back 3 horrors in charge and do 16 damage right here. So like, I don't know. We got to keep playing. And I kind of like that about them. I think I almost want to see that with more death armies. So okay, I'm dropping them in C. But otherwise, I agree with you guys. What about Fyreslayers? This is a faction that I don't think any of us here are ever that hyped about.
I mean, this is really quick. I am zero hype for Fyreslayers because it's the same model, like 50 times. So I'm just like, I don't care.
Okay,
this is gonna be our first
Decent dwarves.
Okay, here we go.
Dwarves, they're dwarves like D for boring dwarves that look the same.
So this might shock you. This will shock you, Steven. I'm S tier.
Oh,
Fyreslayers.
Out
what?
of here! What is wrong with you?
I am excited. I am.
Oh my god!
Okay, why? Why are you S tier on Fyreslayers?
Okay,
I know.
There's 2 reasons.
Okay.
You hate
this is
reason 1.
There's 2 reasons. Now, granted, I do have to qualify this in that when I do build this army, and I'm pretty sure I am going to build this army for 4th edition. I think this might be my second in the queue of new armies for 4th edition.
Okay.
The second one. But,
and when Brad says that, by the way, don't doubt him. He will do it, and he will do it way faster than you think. This army will be on the table like 3 months from now. Okay.
And this will be one where I probably don't like, it won't be like Skaven where like I have the whole range, the giant range and multiples. It'll be a very like focused list, but there's 2 things that happen. One is at the end of 3rd edition, they released the Vulcan Flameseekers for Warcry,
which are
and
cool.
Finally we have a Warcry, a Fyreslayers unit that just looks badass, and they don't all look the same. They gave them armor. They still don't have pants, but it's fine. They've got armor.
That's fine.
They look different. There's lady Fyreslayers in the mix.
Yeah.
They got the little adorable little baby Magmadroth. And then they created an army of renown that was just those, or what it wants you to lean into those, and Magmadroths, which were the other super cool model from the
other
range.
cool model.
Now, as an army of renown, that may not be a thing. They did say the armies of renown were going to get ported over to 4th edition. So you'll probably still be able to play that in some form.
Yes,
so there was that.
I think they
to
are.
me, that fixed the model problem. That fixed the hobby problem. I'm like, I don't have a dwarf army. KO are really cool and tempting, but I know Saray's super excited about KO, so like we'll probably get them on the channel. But then like that fixed the main thing. Hobby thing fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Now the rules. The other problem was the rules. The runes used to be like, you get this buff, you needed to have the whole game, but then you get it for 1 turn, and then on a Tuesday you get like the version you really wanted.
Right.
Now like the runes just do what you want them to do. They're powerful. You feel like you got a lot more agency. You're not hoping on a 6-up. So, and then the other War Scrolls we saw, like, it actually looks like an army that's going to be fun to play, and you're not like crossing your fingers that and do all these work to get the stuff that other people just get for free. So, I'm actually mostly, this is one of those where like it gets S tier because it gets bonus points for just being most improved on both the model front and.
Oh my god, they got 1 kit, and you're like, this is these are like the greatest thing ever. Like the bar for like the hunger and bar for like what Fyreslayer players would be happy with is so low that you got 1 Warcry warband and it's like S tier. This is it. The GOAT. I'm like, they still look like the same unit. Like, where are the cavalry? Where are the elite guard? Where are the anything? Where are the monstrous infantry? This army is so one note. I can't believe you're so hyped on these because you get to do 1 unit 3 times now.
You have to be the change you want to see in the world, Stephen.
I guess
if these get a refresh, like a full refresh, like that Warcry band, I'll completely reevaluate this. But I need to see more than 2 kits, and there needs to be less than like 18 on foot dudes that all look identical, and I could not tell you them like what they all do individually because they're the same.
The runes are really cool. They they did they turned this into like kind of like a version of Deepkin. I've always said that like one of the cool things about Deepkin, I feel like, is that it's a timing army where like it's the only one really like that in current edition. This one is now like that too, but it's like a timing light army where your benefits are not as crazy good and scary as my entire glass hammer army has strike first in this turn. But instead, it's like I get to pick the thing I want, and the kind of funny thing about it is we've talked about this. Steven, you and Saray talked about this. There actually isn't really a good one for turn one, so you almost kind of waste one, and I sort of like that. I guess a good turn one would have been like they can attempt to deny a spell or two or something. But they don't have run and charge is maybe the best one, but running and charging in turn one in Age of Sigmar is usually a bad idea. You're just throwing
especially when you're a movement 4 dwarf guy.
Yeah,
right?
I think
not like they go far.
The ward one might actually be decent if you are going first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No, 50-50. If your opponent wins the priority roll, they force you to go first. Or if they don't put the priority roll. If they gain the priority because of drops, etc., and they gave you first, then this gives you a chance to just push your whole army up, get on all the points, and be like, now you got to come to me and take it from me. That has some use, but also would be great in the later game too. So
that's the problem.
To be clear, I think their rules are actually really good. I think the rules they previewed really solid. Like I think the rules are really interesting. I love the way they've redone the rune system. I think it works really well. I just don't like the I think that they the difference between these guys and KO is that KO is exploring the concept of steampunk dwarf pirates, and I think that is a really broad thing to explore. This army is built around the idea of taking the one unit from the old dwarf army and trying to make a whole range out of Slayers. And I think that idea has got a very low ceiling. So I'm like, the rules work. I think if they completely reimagine them and kind of shed the whole, okay, they have to be like Slayers, and just went, these are dwarves that worship fire guy and they have runes, and they really kind of like explored it. I think they could make a really, really cool dwarf army out of this. I just don't look at this guy.
I know. I was going to say,
look, what are you talking about, Brad? What are you talking about?
This is the most unflattering angle they could take of him too.
You're gonna paint 60 of these guys. This exact model.
Well, see, that's the thing. I'll even be like kit bashing the Vulcan Flame Seekers to be the other units. So,
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you
have fun with your kit bashing your Fyreslayer army. I hope you have fun with it.
Polly does point out that you don't have to use one of the ruins. So you can, that just means you'll have a round where one of them won't get used and whatever, which I think is okay.
Yeah, you don't have to, but like there's 5 and there's 5 rounds, so you kind of feel like you want to try and at least.
The options are at least probably better, right? Okay. Pretty good. I put them in B, guys, because that seems to be where we're landing. That's actually probably where I would have put them myself. So I think, like we said, I'll split the difference. Okay, here comes Gloomspite Gitz. Certainly a fall from grace, maybe a little bit, but also not enough information. How are we feeling on Gloomspite Gitz?
Yeah, after
we all play this army. We all three of us play this army.
We all play a flavor of this army.
Yeah, each different.
After the preview, I'm like, yeah, they had a meteoric rise from second edition to third. Like they went from the bottom of the pile, quite unarguably the bottom of the pile, the very bottom, to maybe the tippy top. Like they were there for a while. I think this rebalancing makes sense. I think I'm kind of like B hype level because I think they've definitely corrected some things. But they haven't shown a lot of the Trog stuff, and that's what I play, so I'm kind of like, I can't really gauge this. I'm not going to do Squigs. Brad has Squigs. I'm not going to do Spiders, because they're going to get phased out. Sorry, Zach.
They're not getting phased out.
So I'm just like, I'm not buying Goblins, so I'm like, until I can see the Trogs and like the whole Trog things, I'm like, I don't really know what to think about this army. But I also don't really have to think about it, because it's all painted. I'm not going to get any new stuff for it. Like, it's what I've got will work, or I will sell it. So right. I'm just sort of like, I don't really mind. It's kind of like, I'm curious to see it, but I don't know if I've got any hype for it, because I think it's all going to be a flavor of slightly worse than what it was, because the army was ridiculous.
Okay. Where are you putting it, Steven?
Oh, yeah.
I put it B. I just put it in the middle.
Just in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious enough to want to see it, but I'm also not. My hype levels aren't high.
Got it.
Maybe even C. Honestly.
C. Okay.
Yeah, for me it's low C. It's almost in D, but I'm gonna reserve D for one army.
Yeah.
We saw this one. This is one of the first ones we saw, and it got me a little worried about all the previews because the moon didn't really change in a way that like mechanically made it like feel like a different thing. The benefits it hands out in some ways got kind of worse. And then mainly it's the Gabapalooza. Like they just brutalized the Gabapalooza. Like it's got a war scroll that looks like one foot hero, but it's like 5 of the most characterful, beautiful models. Like what they should have done is taken the Gabapalooza kit and just split it into 5-foot heroes that you could take individually, and you could take the Brugit and whatever you wanted, and then each one of them did like one interesting thing. Now, because they tried to condense things, they packed it all down, and like one of the guys just isn't even represented anymore. Like the unit has 2 wizards in it, and yet it's wizard 1.
That constraint of that it has to be on one wall scroll, I think it's gonna hit some things just in a negative way for no reason other than they've given themselves this. It has to be on a scroll. There is no other way.
Yeah, it should have filled up the scroll, but then like one corner of it's just a picture of one guy. Like So when we saw that, I was like, ooh, I'm a little worried about 4th edition. Like, is this gonna be? Are we kicking out too much fun? And then it turned out that was kind of an anomaly. Most units, if anything, as a lateral move, some got really interesting things, some got more things than they had before. And the fact that we saw that, and then one of the fourth war scroll they showed us was for the Loon Shrine, we still really kind of have no idea what like the army does. Like we saw squig herds, and we saw that like, okay, they're kind of making them not quite as crazy. That's fine. But it wasn't going to get you excited. It was like, here's we'll give you a preview of all the stuff we took away. And so for me, hype level very low, but it could change dramatically when we get the index. And we finally see all the rules and be like, whoa, okay, now squigs have been reinvented this way, or this other unit that was just never any, like spiders could somehow be just amazing.
Oh, they will be. It's happening.
Yeah,
they said that they have a lot of fun movement shenanigans, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah, I like that. That's their gimmick because they've got webs and they're spiders, so they should be able to slow you down and move really quick and go wherever they want.
Did you guys? Now we have since seen other faction terrain. The Bad Moon Loonshire is actually pretty tough at 14 wounds. Keep in mind, there's no degradation or anything on this. So like, 14 wounds, 4-up save. Like we haven't seen 3-up saves. But 14 wounds is kind of high. We've seen a lot of 6 wound, like a Skaven. The Skaven hole is what, 6 wounds.
The thing about the Skaven hole is you can bring them back.
You can bring them back. Same with the Sylvaneth, right?
Yeah, so this one is like really important for your strategy, and once it's gone, it's gone. So
14 might not be
also
enough.
The fact that the replacement units are free now, like you don't roll, it's like automatic if you spend a CP.
It is a CP, but it's big.
That's a change I like across the board, where they've turned that. Just that other armies had that too. I like that.
And can we just recap? I know Steve and I think had this conversation on air. Can we just recap once again that Squigs Gone Wild is an example of naming an ability and forgetting where the name came from, because you create the name in 2002 or 2004, and we continue to call it Squigs
Oh my god,
Gone
what did
Wild?
we say the other ability should be called? There was the pairing. I was like, why didn't they name the other one something else? I forget what it was.
Oh my god,
I was like, it was another
we gotta go back
corny
and
reference.
Yeah.
I have to go watch it, but I was like, why did they not? They missed this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
Yeah. But they were like, this has always been called Squigs Gone Wild. And no one was like, why is it called that again? And like, I don't know. It's just funny.
They're squigs and they're going wild. Like, you know,
Oh, no. It's from
It's
from a famously exploitative series of softcore porn that came out and has had multiple documentaries written about it. And the owner is like in prison.
Well,
now,
if I sit and think for long enough about what do squigs and goblins get up to when they're not out on the battlefield and they're in their caves doing mushrooms, I'm like, that name makes a lot of sense to me.
It makes
I'm like,
sense.
there's lots of mushroom orgies happening. I think.
I
in
just
the
want to
underground.
know. I just want to know, would they have came up with that name if they didn't? If,
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, spring break in the Everdank is just off. Right?
Am I putting this a C? Is this a C?
Yeah,
This is a C.
For me it's a C.
Okay, that brings us to Deepkin.
This is really quick. I'm just gonna do this for me. I love this model range. I hate how this army plays. I am not hyped for this in any way because I just don't. I tried them. I did not like them. This is the most beautiful model range in the whole game. Why is half of it on those horrible flying stands? It's D. I don't care. It's
All right.
D for don't care.
We gotta bring it out of D, Brad. Bring it out of D for us. Can it be done?
It can be done, but I'm personal again. Hype level, it's still only like a C.
Yeah.
They didn't change anything. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I really don't like the Tide as like you put all of your eggs in the turn 3 basket and then that's it. It's like your turn 3 better pop off or you toast. I really wish they'd moved away from that and done something more interesting with it.
The Tides are one of those abilities that it does funnel you into a particular play style, and then the test, then every unit has to pass the Tides test. It's like, does this fit into the strategy what the army rules are telling me to do?
Yeah.
And many of the units do. In particular, it's like all the fast units. And then it inevitably leaves certain things out in the cold. Some of the foot heroes, the thralls potentially, like, what are you going to do with those guys? Like, how does that fit into your, fast moving strategy? So yeah, from a rules wise, like, they have a strong identity. They have a cool model range. I don't know. It just hasn't quite hit for me. So I'm just going to put it at C.
Yeah, I'm. This is my final army for the very long foreseeable future that I'm building up and painting to be able to play on the stream. I know nobody else is super into it, and I've always been low key into it. But I'm gonna take my time with it as a hobby project. But C sounds about right. There's nothing here that really made me super excited to be starting the army. Although I'm just excited in general for it. I think it's going to be fun, but I wasn't like, oh, now I'm really glad I'm starting this army. So, all right, C sounds good. Sorry, Deepkin players, we're not talking about it longer. But I think it's a pretty solid C from all of us. Oh, except for Steven. Steven passing out the Ds today.
Yeah, well, that's just like I had the army. I bought the whole range. I had it. I tried it. I played with Brad, and I was just like, I just don't like this strategy of like everything is on the turn 3, and I have to take like. By the way, you're doing it as a hobby project. I agree. I spent a lot of time painting the units I did, and they looked really nice, and I was really happy with them. Get those alternative flying stands for your eels because you will look at them and they just fall off the base.
I'm not using
They are
those.
a nightmare.
They're dumb.
They are a design nightmare. I hate them.
Yeah. My kind of theory is that I think that they are even more glass cannon-y than Daughters.
They are.
And so, from Daughters, I went to the Quicksilver Dead Nighthaunt list, which is sort of a little less killy, but a little more durable. So now I want to take one step the other way.
Actually, I don't think they are. I think they're a bit more durable than Daughters because they get the debuffs, they get the cover and the benefit early in the game. Like they're hard to shift early in the game. Like you can make them really hard to lose anything early.
Daughters. The problem with Daughters is it's the wards. It's rerollable wards, which they might not have. But honestly, the biggest thing is that half of your opponent's army is occupied by something that can't be killed. That's what makes Daughters
huge.
That's what makes Daughters durable.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on to Ironjawz. We had this one this past week.
Ironjawz. So, excuse me. I own a number of Ironjawz kits. I can't say I own an army because I was going to build them as part of Big Wa. Big Wa, rest in peace.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't read this one. Have they fully confirmed that the armies are now distinctly separate? They're their own books. We're not getting a combo.
Yeah.
They're going to come in the same faction pack for some reason, but they said for sure these are two completely separate armies. They have
so when they get battle tomes, we're going to get a Kruleboyz battle tome and an Ironjawz.
They didn't say that because they don't want to talk about future products. But
oh, okay.
But Big Wa, there was a tweet somewhere. The Big said Big Wa is no longer a thing. Might be an army of renown later in the edition or something. That's know its own special rules. Here's the big change with Ironjawz is they lost Smash and Bastion, which from a especially from a competitive I want to build a strong Ironjawz list is a big loss, right? Because you might have that one big turn where you just destroy a whole ton of stuff.
I think there's a case that we made that one of the sub factions is going to give it though, right?
They might have, it does sound like that. Something like that might have been in one of the
inspire each other to greater acts of carnage. Yeah,
that does sound like that's what that is. But the trade-off is some of the war scrolls, Brutes in particular, just got juiced.
I just read the Brutes war scroll, and I'm like, what on earth? These guys are legit.
Yeah,
Brutes are ogres now.
Brutes are ogres now.
They're ogres with 3-up saves. They only have 1 less wound, but and they have 1 less attack.
And they still do the contested objective turn off thing, which is insane.
Yeah. If you think they're hot, check out the big pigs. Big pigs are big pigs got scary. And we've always seen
I like that this army is just 3-up across the board, just they've finally acknowledged that they are literally wearing slabs of iron. They're like, do you know what? Yeah. These Hulks in iron should probably have a 3-up armor save because I'm here for this.
Yeah.
So the momentum they in errata and late in 3rd edition kind of sort of fixed the momentum score thing for the pigs because when it first rolled out it was terrible. Now I think it's really really fixed.
It's good.
Carve a path.
Look insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turn 1, get into combat. You get 1 momentum. Then you carve a path in your next turn. And now you're going to be at 3 momentum, charge into something in their second rank, their second line. I mean, amazing. Fun, very Ironjawzy. I don't know. I think I put these guys at A. Even though it looks like they took a normal battle traits thing and then just the second page got cut off in the printout or something.
I mean, I think the thing about them is it's similar to, I feel like outside of Gloomspite, Gloomspite are this sub-faction that I think kind of wants to be a order faction. Outside of Gloomspite, they are the sub-faction that is a destruction sub-faction that just does a ton of damage. And so the War Scrolls speak for themselves, and you wouldn't want to give this faction you wouldn't want to give them a Lumineth level of abilities, right? They'd be they'd be too good. The big pigs, So we're saying A?
Yeah,
I think A.
Okay, A.
Gordrak's also an absolute tank.
Looks crazy good, yeah. All right, A it is. All right, guys, we have 3 A's, 3 B's, 3 C's, and 3 D's, and we have no S's and we have no D's, and I don't think we're going to get one right now either. Kharadron. Sky Dwarves, how are we feeling?
D.
Oh, Steven with the D. Okay, but Steven D is like a Brad or Zach.
Well, I'm just I'm gonna make something stick in D. You two are far too mushy and everything's nice and cool and you can't be hyped for all of this. Come on, are you hyped for the army that teleports around and shoots your entire army off the board?
I want to see how. I want to see.
Are you excited for that?
I like that it's different than all the other armies, and I'm going to see what it does. So I wouldn't put it a D for sure, but I get what you're saying. Brad, talk some sense into this.
For me, if you're talking just if this was a hobby hype list, Kharadron has always been S tier for me. Sure. I think this would just be the most awesome army to work on, and it was always in someday I'll do a Kharadron army, and maybe the thing that would have flipped that switch would have been if a set of rules come along that just really kind of click. This still isn't that set of rules that really clicks for me. And so that overrides, I think, almost everything else. The KO players are going to have strong opinions about what was lost, and the boats moving, dragging the guys around the table. I know why they did it. The garrisoning thing that they did in 3rd, let's just piggyback off this rule that's already part of the core rules that I think it just turns out most people just don't use. Most people have tables that don't have garrisonable terrain on it.
Terrain, right? Yeah.
And so how many times I watched people talk about it would be garrisoning. How does that work? And you're it's in the core rules.
It's good too. It's good.
Yeah. So it's gone. So that's gone. So they had to do something about that. Transports aren't a fit. This isn't 40K. So now they kind of drag guys around. I think it's going to be clunky. in practice, and they're gonna. I think when 5th edition comes around, or maybe even when the Battletome comes around, they're take another crack at that and do it again.
Okay.
So I don't know. It for me, it still puts it like high C, like, and the hobby score is what's dragging it back up. Yeah. If the playstyle clicked more with me, I'd be more excited.
I think Saray, who's starting this army, he's excited for it, but he's brought up one thing, which he's like, I know it's a shooting army, but he's like, but what they are missing is some kind of tough, durable, maybe not quite as killy melee unit. Of course, that's the kind of melee unit Saray likes in general, but I do agree with him. And I'm kind of curious. I'm interested in the mechanic for transports, because I think players who are good at Kharadron are going to get really good at knowing when and where to place the model, the ship, and when and where to place the people that get out, and that's going to be like a big thing. And I'm kind of curious to see that evolve if it does. But otherwise, yeah, they're squishy. Honestly, they have good saves. It's like 4 and 3 up saves across the board, but low wound count, no wards, and not much of a slapback in combat, really.
Yeah, I think the one for me, the one high point as far as like playstyle goes, that was like, ooh, that seems kind of fun, was the assault boat rule for the frigate.
Yes.
That like, oh, that actually seems pretty. I'm gonna charge in with my boat, and I'm gonna drag a bunch of guys into combat with me. Like, that starts to feel like certain 40k armies that are like, but like the fun part of that, and now you're actually still playing AOS with everyone else.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's kind of a bright point for me, but.
Yeah, and Saray's been checking out the scrolls, and I think he's right. His point is you just have to soften things up, and they have the shooting for that. So it's like you're gonna soften stuff up. You're gonna run the Sky Wardens in, and it's not nothing. The weird thing about this army, guys, we were looking at it. It's a lot of 2 damage, like low number of attacks, but kind of high quality attacks, which I thought was sort of. I don't think I realized that about this army before. So where are we putting it, Brad?
For me, it's still in the C tier.
I think so. Yeah.
It's not an army.
It's not a D, Steven. Jeez. Okay, Kruleboyz. Here we go.
We have to put something in D. Guys,
something
right?
is going in D.
We have to put something in D.
We all know who's going in D.
We can't be slightly hyped for everything. Come on.
We all know who's
People
going in D.
came here to see the extremes. People came here to see the S's and the D's. No one cares about the middle of the road.
Well, I tried to give them an S, Steven, and you countered with your D.
Got you a present.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, because that was insane.
Oh look, Meg just got me a present from the store. Speaking of deep,
that is such a nice
awesome.
model. I love that kit.
That is
so
a
much.
Peak hobby. Those things are awesome.
Yeah, that is peak hobby. You
Kind
got
of-
a big
kind-
monster, you got a bunch of dudes. It's great.
So Kruleboyz.
Kruleboyz.
I'll kick this off. The hobby stuff that I've got, the stuff I finished recently is Kruleboyz stuff. I'm pumped for Kruleboyz. I'll give it.
It's happening.
I'll give it an.
I'll
give it an S.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
It'll probably get dragged down with Steven.
I'll echo the S.
Okay.
I
cool.
think this update looks incredible. Like, again, I don't have this army. I have no interest in playing this army, but this update was really exciting to see because this sounds cool.
It doesn't even look like they look good. They don't look bad, but they don't look broken. Like, holy crap, how are we going to play against this? Like another army.
But this is a hype list, not a what's going to be the broken list. This is what is exciting, and this is a really exciting.
So cool. I love the dirty trick mechanic. I love them getting harder to pull off each round. Yeah, this is great. What do you guys like the most about? What's the most exciting to you about Kruleboyz?
For me, it's that when they first were released, it was like, oh my god, they made the orc army that I wanted. The models I wanted to paint. Like, for me, that just, it was perfect. This is exactly the kinds of orc models I wanted in my Warhammer, and so super excited about the hobby side of it. But then the rules were just dishwater. It was just roll 6s the army, and rolling 6s is fun, so that's fine. But you're
not good.
You were
at
funneled into. Yeah.
You're not good at it.
It depends. It depends. Yeah, Steven will tell you the ward saves. I'm amazing with the ward saves.
Are always they're always 50%. Those 5 ward saves.
Saray too. Same thing. It's so annoying.
it just funneled you into Bolt Boys so
Yeah.
hard, and it's kind of fun to have a destruction army that's about shooting. I like that part of it, but if you wanted to kind of flex into more, I'm gonna do kind of a melee thing with the shield wall, and then I'm gonna have the troll guys, the breakup bosses. Then it just didn't do anything. Now that it's the first time I read the rules, I'm like, yeah, I'm just not disappointed about anything. There's a lot of potential here. The dirty tricks are great. The Crypt Mortals got just rolled into their War Scrolls. It meant that they could do other things with that rule space. So yeah, I'm pumped. I'm most excited to just see what the rest of the index does, and if it's even just like one-to-one translation of certain things, that's probably okay, because their allegiance abilities are like legit. Now, and another chance to have the artifact. We haven't seen artifacts, but the artifacts were just universally terrible in 3rd edition. They were all like once per battle, do a thing on a die roll.
Like the Nighthaunt ones, yeah.
Yeah, and then the result was like something you didn't care about. It was like, oh, I guess I'll just take an Arcane Tome, because why? So hopefully those will be better. But what we're seeing here, I have faith that they'll be better than they were in 3rd. So they could hardly be worse. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about this army. I'm excited for us to see it on the channel. I know we have another player who wants to play them as well. So
no, Andrew's great. He's a guest, but his real life availability is spotty, Brad. So whenever you want to play Kruleboyz, by all means, please. Steven, what do you like about Kruleboyz? What's got Steven with his S tier pick?
Yeah, I basically just everything Brad said. I think, it's kind of funny that it took a whole edition for things that came out in 3rd to get their glow up, like Andrasta and this whole army. But like the dirty tricks are really cool now. I think they finally found how to make them work and feel useful and not feel like something that you always forget mid game. You're like, oh, I had a thing over there, my bad. Yeah, I like the spell, the passive that they showed. The scrolls looked cool. I like the killer boss. I think he's fun. Gobsprak's like, whatever. Like Gobsprak seems pretty Gobspracky. He doesn't seem like he's really moved all that much on the needle. But like, yeah, I'm just excited for this army to play how it's meant to and feel cool and be kind of fun. And I think there's going to be lots of different ways to build this army. I think you can probably go shooting. You can probably go monster mash and get all the cool monsters. Yep. And I think there's going to be loads of different ways to play this. So I'm excited for them.
Yeah, nothing that they previewed isn't exciting. Malavodia in chat mentions they're excited to see the Dobby scrolls, the Hobgrot Slitas. I'm thinking they're talking about.
Oh no,
isn't it the big? It's the big the drum thing that buffs.
Yeah, Dobby's the drum troll.
Oh,
the
troll
looks like Dobby.
Yeah, it's the one unit that everyone else like co-ops because it's like. It's
that guy, yeah.
Kruleboyz. Everyone got it. So like.
Yeah.
I was like,
the ogre's best model.
I was like, little weird to be excited about Hobgob Slitas, but hopefully they're cool.
No, he's talking about the Dobby troll.
Okay, they're our first S tier. This takes us to one that I know is going to be, well, I don't know what you guys are going to say. This takes us to Lumineth.
Steven, you wanna kick this one out? Yeah. I've got another strong.
Yeah, this one is interesting.
I mean, so again, like I love this range. I can never play High Elves. It's just something I couldn't physically bring myself to do as someone who played Dark Elves for most of my Warhammer Fantasy Battle career.
Look at them though; they're so magnificent.
They are magnificent. I love this model range. It's beautiful. Like, the Beaver of Secrets, the Shining Company. I love it all. Like, the Techless model is great.
The Beaver of Secrets. Can I toss something out that I want you two and chat to stew on for a minute? We were chatting other S tier, A tier rankings. We were chatting what were GW's greatest lines. Okay? And I came up with these three. Ready? These guys, Lumineth Realm-lords, Adeptus Mechanicus in 40k, and then Ashwaste Hunters in Necromunda. Those are the only S tier. Like, if we're ranking all of them, those are a whole other ranking system for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, this is...
But these guys, I thought of one of them, yeah.
I feel like I would almost consider putting these in S, because I'm really excited to see 90% of these units on the board that isn't the archers and tech list, because I feel like that's all I saw for 3rd edition. I feel like the only things I saw were tech lists and archers. So I'm excited to see this army painted on tables, because it feels like you're going to be able to use a lot of stuff. And the model range is gorgeous.
Brad, thoughts? You're working on stone the stone version of this army.
Yeah, so I'm solid S on Lumineth, because it's the Predator meme with Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers, like it's hobby and rules like come together. It's awesome. Their allegiance abilities really flavorful, really powerful. They managed to somehow take like five pages of like rules on rules on rules and condense it down to one page that like still has the identity army. It's actually kind of just a new take on a lot of the stuff.
You still look at it and go, from the other side of the table, how the fuck can I beat this army?
These rules are spicy.
Yeah,
it's a high elf army, so you got to be able to role play like the arrogant.
Yeah,
like,
the high elf superiority has to be there. Like you have to have the. We are high elves. What are you talking about? We own scrubs.
Yeah, I'm just better at you. Better than you at everything.
What do you want me to do?
It still feels that way.
Yeah.
Great War Scrolls. So I'm working on the Stone Temple side of it first, and then we'll do the Venari stuff.
And I see why you're doing that, because I see why I see what you're doing, Brad. I'm not immune to this, right? Because they were like, hey, we rebalanced everyone, so elves are going to be really good at hitting, but they're going to wound on 4s. And you were like, yeah.
Oh, we'll
what
see
about the
that.
elves that wield giant, massive hammers? What do they wound on? Oh, 3s? That's my army. I'm doing those elves. Not the elves that are weak. I'm doing the hammer elves. Like, I see you.
The nice thing for those of us who play on stream and get to play Brad is that in addition to that, Megan is painting up the wind side of this. She doesn't have intentions to play it, I don't think, but John is a big elf guy, so Steven, you and I will get to play both sides of this faction on stream. It'll be super fun for us, I think.
No, I'm excited. I love this army aesthetically and how they play. I'm very excited to see these on the table and get to murder them, especially when I get my Shadow Elves. I can't wait for the day where my Shadow Elves get to totally butcher these poncy, shiny Muppets. I can't wait. It's gonna be
I know.
Great.
That's probably never going to happen, but I will say this. The big thing I find, because Nighthaunt have this vibe too, where you look at all their rules. In the current 3rd edition, they have this vibe. You look at all the rules and you're like, what? How can anyone beat this army? And it ends up being in the War Scrolls, right? Like, these guys don't have a lot of wards. It's going to be an elite army. You're going to spend a lot of points for these units. When you buy a unit of Sentinels, you're going to be spending over 200 points. I mean, Sentinels are going to have half the wound of Bow Snakes, maybe one better save. And
I suspect this army is going to look small on a table. I suspect, all my rules are amazing because no one else's scrolls really got glow-ups, but this army felt like it did. I think you're going to put this on the table and be like, well, where's the rest of my army?
I mean, Steven, when I played Jessica at LVO and we sat our armies down, she had two Cow Mountains and then a bunch of guard. It was like 2 units of 5, 1 unit of 10, and then some Dawn Riders and like 2 characters.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it.
This is going to be elite.
Yeah. I like Darktron's comment. He says, normally when you see someone say what Darktron's about to say, you're like, all right, dude, whatever. When someone's like, I sold my whole army because of this one reason, you're like, all right, overreact much, dude? But I think that this is pretty valid. I sold my whole Lumineth Realm-lords because the Wardens, the spears are 3 inches long.
The spears are ridiculous.
It's like,
I'm like, it's like one of those units. I'm like you and your ghost. I'm like, I could not play this army because I do not want to play the monkey game where they just cling to each other. It would drive me insane. This is another unit like that.
Yeah, I do have a strategy for that. I've got magnetized little bases that keep them in their little tight formation, and I'm just going to turn them around so they'll be walking backwards with their pikes.
That's very high elf. That's very
Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Having your front rank facing the other way so that they can actually connect.
Honestly, I think the whole reason why Shining Company existed in their first book was because they realized people are going to have to put these on movement trays to move them around because otherwise they're totally ridiculous. So you're like, let's make movement trays the rule. And that's where we ended up. So
okay. Yeah, no, they're cool. I'm excited to play against them.
a quick thank you to Molecule, who is a big supporter of the channel. Thanks, Molecule. $2 for Beefer of Secrets.
Hell yeah.
I'm the other thing. This is no small part of that S tier. I'm excited for running the cow army for all the cow puns.
Yeah.
There's so many.
There's so many. That thing has so many names.
This takes us to Nurgle.
Yeah. So excited.
How are we feeling? How are we feeling about Nurgle?
Brad?
So yeah, Nurgle, I've played a ton. This is probably the army, maybe Steven, I think you and I might have played them the most in late second and early third.
Yeah, I think so.
And I've just always loved the model range and just kind of the way they play. They came through. I don't know. I like it. I think there were a number of people that reacted to the new disease as like, well, this is just Weird Flame, but with a different name. And it's different, and it might seem to be more different the more we find things that interact with it. Yeah, for me, this is like, I mean, in a way, like on the channel, I've kind of handed this off like Surrey's now our Nurgle player, and that's totally cool. I still think it's cool. I think B is just solid. It's like they're not a casualty of the change. A few things got juiced up a little bit. Great and clean ones feel even a little bit better.
Yeah.
Than they were before. Yeah, I think they're cool.
I
agree.
Great unclean ones fall into this interesting category that we've seen pop up in a few places like Alariel, where your 4-up bring back a unit mechanic is on them, right? Is that here?
Yeah.
We saw that?
There during your movement phase, he's a locus of Nurgle. We might see that on other things. It might not just be him, but he does have it.
So you're probably going to take a locus of Nurgle, I think. Anything that has this rule, I think you got to take one.
Well, I mean, I think you take him anyway. He's the whole package. He's 20 wounds, 4-up save with a 5-up ward. He's a 2-cast wizard. He slaps in combat now because they just molded them all together. Yeah. He's your locus thing. He has a great spell. This guy's ridiculous. This might be the best war scroll we've seen out of every reveal. I think this might be just from like pure efficiency. This scroll is absurd. Like, he must cost a boatload of points.
What about Seraphon is also a pretty wild
one. No, because Seraphon does what Seraphon does, and that's fine. This guy does literally everything. He is a whole complete package.
I think I'm waiting to see I'm just waiting to see Rodriguez, because he was one of the ones that always kind of like lost in the like named versus generic. That was true of a lot of units, and it was like, why would I ever take Rodriguez? I'll just take a Grand Human. And I'm curious about that, and I'm also really curious about Glocken.
Yeah.
Because Glocken was one where like he came out in 3rd edition, it was like he's 770 points. He's like 520 or something now. That tells you how way off the mark they were when they wrote that war scroll. So there's a lot still to be like, wait and see. But I think overall, I feel good about the army. And what it's doing.
Is this A?
I agree with Liam in chat. I agree if Horticulus Slimex doesn't get an upgrade, a glow up this edition, we riot. Because like that model is amazing and you never ever see it. And I'm like, why are we not seeing the snail boy? He's so good.
Yep.
Yeah. I hope they give him an ability of mentioning something about a snail trail. Once again, demonstrating that they know nothing about any slang. And they're just like, hey, this is funny, right? Okay. Is this A?
I'm putting B.
I think we're going B. Going B.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In terms of hype, because it looks good. I'll put it top of B. I think it looks really solid, and I'm excited to play against them. Because they're one of the armies I play against a lot. Because Brad plays them a lot.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Nighthaunt. This is a good one. What are we thinking? This one was a while ago.
No, I got to refresh.
Let me start.
I've got the page up here.
You got. Okay. I'll start by tossing out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they simplified the charging stuff. Yeah, I'm hyped for this.
Yeah.
I think these were the correct changes. I think the current version of it is a bit muddy and complex and a bit weird, and I think this refinement feels really, really solid. I'm like A, I think, for this, because I'm like, I liked playing against them, but also hated it at the same time because there was so much to track and manage and constant move. We joked last time we played this. Zach, where it's like, okay, Zach's gonna do his movement phase. I'm gonna go and like walk to Starbucks and get us all a coffee because it takes 1,000,000 years because he's got like 80 ghosts. So I'm like, these changes all feel really, really good to me. I'm excited to play this new version of the book.
Yeah, I think it's great. This is one where they didn't just like squish the old batches down through grinder, and then what came out was like, oh, you preserved the feel, but this and this and this got lost. They just reinvented it, but in a way that makes it, I think, a lot more fun.
Yeah.
You're not just fishing for those dice rolls as much as like fishing for it's casino. Casinos, there's a reason why people go to casinos.
Right.
So that has its place, but the game is already a dice game. We've already got plenty of that in the fight phase and whatnot. So like now you can plan your turn, and Nighthaunt always have been about like positioning, you know, with the old fallback and charge thing and whatnot. You've got your movement, you got your ethereal. It's all about setting up and then charging and getting your bonuses. And now you can actually plan that out, that like, I'm going to put a hero here that's going to do this ability. I'm going to got my cavalry here that, you know, so that to me just way more interesting as a general, becomes super tactical and not, I set up my plan and then I have the insurance guys to get extra dice rolls, and then I just roll dice and see what happens, and I rolled a bunch of 4s to charge and nothing happens. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun to play.
I'm it's actually on my table right now, literally. Knight of Shrouds and Ethereal Steed and the Dreadblade Horrors now. I'm excited for a unit of 4 of them. And I think,
right.
Yeah, I think it looks super exciting and fun. It's kind of been one of the number one armies I've been painting up right now for 4th, because my build currently is a little limited, although I think it's going to be fine. Lady O looks quite good. And yeah, like as Liam was saying, I think Ethereal is going to be intense in this edition. Yeah.
Ethereal's gonna feel really kind of punishing, I think.
Yeah. So I'm interested. I'm excited. I like A. It sounds like that's what you guys are thinking.
Yeah. For me, it's a solid A, and it'll actually go even more up for me when we get the indexes. If they're like Khorne, where they've got just this like abundance of these foot heroes that were just middling and meh. I mean, foot heroes in general have always had a problem with that, but like if the Scriptor Mortis has something really cool now,
right? He's ridiculous right now. Yeah.
Yeah, if Floaty Boatman does something really cool now, if the Lord Executioner does something really cool now, then it goes even higher.
All right, here we go. We're gonna get a good reaction one way or the other from Steven. It's Bonereaper time. It's Bonereaper time.
Oh my god.
Now, this is a faction that everybody kind of knew going in, or thought going into this, that we would see get nerfed a bit.
Because they didn't have enough nerfs over the last 12 months. They they were like the weekly, what do we do to Bonereapers this week?
It was bad. It was funky internal balance was maybe the number one issue, right?
No, I think I wouldn't even say I think we throw them under the bus here. I think they completely screwed up this book.
Yes.
I think they completely messed this book up. I think they completely misaligned everything, and they had to spend every update trying to backpedal, which made playing this army kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you every month you had to change your army because they changed something, and they made it so it didn't work like how the lore describes it. Like I will never forgive them for the Harvester. The quadruple Harvester nerf was staggeringly bad, and it just didn't work like a Harvester anymore.
That was wild.
So silly
to hit it hard in every way imaginable and be like, all right, what do you guys think? Did we do it?
Yeah. Yeah. I would just put these. Honestly, I am not hyped for this index. I just want to see it because I want to know what parts of the army I'm going to get to play with. Because right now, I have no idea. The fact they didn't show Catacross off terrifies me.
A little odd.
Like, why on earth did we not? Like, we saw every other like Mortarks, right, and all the big name characters, and they're like, here's 2 foot heroes. Here's 2 random foot wizards for you to look at.
Here's a guy.
Why did we not see Catacross?
Here's a guy that brings his closet with him.
Oh yeah, here's the model that we sold that no one has ever played before. Here's his rules in case you're all wondering what this guy did. Yeah, I don't know. I would put this at, as a hype level, I would put this at C because I'm more scared than I am hyped because I have no idea what this army is going to look like in 4th edition, because this told me nothing. This update told me literally nothing.
Yeah, Brad, how are you feeling on Bonereapers?
Yeah, this is an interesting because I think the battle traits are a really solid set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Powerful, fun, cool things.
They have that tactical. You get to choose one or the other, and you get to have that flexibility. I think they're cool.
Yeah, because I felt like in 3rd edition they did kind of overcompensate from the beginning of 3rd edition, where it was just like you just basically kind of don't have allegiance abilities, and then it was like you just get to do everything. There's like there's no situation that you can't command point your way out of. And now it's like, do you do this or do you do this? And now do you do this or do you do this? And like it's just good design. It ends up not, you have options rather than, or you have choices instead of options. Yeah. Because previously it was just like, well, if I had enough, if I brought Catacross and I'm just silly with command points, I'll just do everything and have 3 left over at the end of the turn. Now it's like, no, you actually have to make a choice, but they're good, interesting choices. Having said that, I do agree that the war scrolls they showed us were, in particular, the Necropolis Stalkers was just a gut punch, because as much as they needed a little bit of a cut down, because previously it was like, oh, well, they're just super durable and super killy. Like, why not have both? Now they're neither particularly durable nor super killy.
Well,
so,
me and Zach talked about this at length after that reveal, and we think our suspicion is they're positioning them to be the battle line equivalent for a construct themed army, so that you would actually they're going to be cheaper, and you're going to take these kind of in multiples, in units of 6, because with 6 of them turning off wards, they're actually kind of still pretty choppy. I think they're going to have more of that position. Yeah, I think the Immortis Guard are going to be more elite, and these guys are going to be more the battle line version that you take.
I think you're gonna when you build, you're gonna be like, do I want Mortis Guard? Do I want Stalkers? Not a Mortis Guard, sorry, Mortech Guard. Do I want Mortech Guard? Do I want Stalkers? Or do I want to mix of both? Or do I want to mix of both? Or do I want Cavalry, right? There's no battle line anymore, but I see these guys as like, okay, cool, I want Catacross, I want maybe Arkin, and I want a couple other, like a Catapult.
Yeah, I think this is to help with build variety. Yeah. I think they're repositioning their role. And I think we all saw them being like, oh, I wonder what the OBR hammer's going to be like. And the scroll is not a hammer, it's a battle line unit. It's a control piece for anti-infantry.
We went through, Brad, and looked at some of their abilities and some of the abilities of the army, and figure that 6 Stalkers still put something like, what was it, Stephen, like 22 Ren 2 damage 1 wounds?
Yeah, because they're still Ren 2, and if they turn off wards, they just obliterate hero characters and like monster heroes, like, because they have enough Ren to make the monsters scary, like to make them care, and they turn off wards completely, which I think is one of the things that heroes are going to rely on in the new edition, because they've got, like, everyone's got a 5-up ward. These guys just turn it off, and they have a bucket of attacks. So I think they will actually still blend heroes like pretty consistently.
I think they finally fixed the aspects too. Like, that's much more of an interesting choice. Like, in the 2nd edition book, it was like there was only one choice. In the 3rd edition book, there was kind of just 2. There was like, if they're not going to strike first, I'm going to do the defensive ones. I lose some of my damage output. Now it's like you're actually teching. They're not just, this is the killy, this is the defensy. It's a little more, I need to turn off wards, or I need to be a little defensive. Yeah, but I think they're in the, like, they're going to be like 90 to 100 points now instead of like
I think so.
Right, which will be great for 3
I think I predicted like 240 for 6, I think, or something. Yeah. Like, I think that was kind of my gauge.
120. Yeah, well, I think 40 points a model sounds probably close to right. Yeah.
Sure. Maybe.
The tell for me was they removed the stalking ability, the hunt and kill, where they can like leap through, they run and charge, they can go through terrain. These aren't an assassin piece anymore. These aren't a missile you fire at something to kill the thing you need. They're now just like a battle unit that walks around the battlefield, contesting points, fighting infantry, maybe killing a monster hero with the right synergies. Like, I think they're way more of they just fit into the army like a general unit, rather than being this glass cannon. You send them at the thing and it obliterates whatever you want it to kill. But then, once its job's done, it kind of might get picked off. But so yeah, it was a bit of a reevaluation in the mind of like, I think we're going to see this. I think this is why, for me, I'm like not hyped on the book. I'm more very concerned of like, I need to see all these scrolls together, because I think
what roles are changing. Yeah,
they've changed roles in this armor. Like, the catapult's good. What? Why is the catapult good?
That's not supposed to be good.
Yeah, it's supposed to be trash. It's on a pie plate of a base, and it's enormous, and it's like this weird thing that everyone has 2 of because it used to be silly. So like, yeah, I'm not hyped. I'm just really kind of curious what this book's going to look like. So I think it's going to be, you know, when we were talking about what to play at the beginning of the edition, I was like, well, Stormcast will be fine because I've got enough built, and they're going to be very elite. You're not going to need a lot of it. I'm like, I can't commit to playing OBR at the start of this edition because I have no idea what these armies are going to look like when right out of the gate. Because I think it's going to fundamentally change completely, like what you take and how many of it you take.
I know that you need to get painting some catapults, though. That's for sure. Triple.
I'm gonna hold off. I don't know if I want to take catapults.
Triple catapult, triple crawler.
For me, I'm hoping the catapult is more of a nod to there's going to be a second wave, and we're going to get archers and some more construct stuff, and flesh out the range. So you could do kind of like a like Roman legionary phalanx with catapults and archers and stuff like that. Like that's kind of what I'm holding out for.
Yeah, like a Bronze Age, so you got your war elephants or your giants or something, and then
give me a bone giant.
Stuff.
Yeah,
I think that'd be awesome.
What do you guys like to see? Is this a C?
I have to put it at a C, I think, because it's just the tentative. It's sort of in holding pattern to see what else.
Steven, are you gonna see what comes out later?
I am. I'm gonna see how they are. They're not OBR for me yet.
Nice. Nice, good. Those are good puns. Okay,
thank you.
Here we go. Ogres. I know we all have opinions on this one, especially Steven. I was gonna say especially me and Brad, but especially Steven.
I'm just happy for the Ice Age to be over. I'm just happy for the Stonehorn dominance to just be done. I'm just glad that we live in this world where we don't have to fight 4 of them.
Let me jump in here for a second. First thing I want to say is that I don't mind the role switching to just D3 mortals on the way in. Or 2 or 3 mortals on the way in, or maybe 1. We don't know. We still don't know the answer to that. That's what today's poll should have been. Okay, and I guess I don't. I think I'm fine with. I think I'm fine with the War Scrolls and everything. I guess these guys fall into that category if I want to see a little bit more. The sub-faction they show for sure is the one I'll be using. So in the case of this army, I already know my sub-faction. Listen, doing 3 or 4 mortal wounds on the way in is like kind of good. Like
I think that's really high now. I think that's going to stand out as significant.
We talked about this when we talked about this, that the potential to get a 10-inch charge and then have 7 mortal wounds on the way in is gone. But listen, I have absolutely needed to murder something, and it's risky that I'm going to get it done in combat. I'm like, boy, like 6 mortal wounds would be nicer right here, and I get like 0 or 1.
Yeah.
So
the fact that it's more consistent now, I think, is really, really good.
I'm fine.
Well, you'll still be getting 0 a lot, a third of the time.
That's right.
0.
That's right. Or a sixth of the time, maybe. We don't know.
It's a third. It's confirmed. It's confirmed.
Is it?
We missed our chance on the Khorne stream yesterday, which we unfortunately had to abort. We missed our chance for me to promise. I was going to promise every mandrel I was going to personally buy a Skaven type box if it was not on a 2+ on a D3. Yeah.
Wow, he was confident.
I was prepared.
That's the most. Steven, have you ever seen Brad with that much confidence? Like,
no, I have not. That's insane to
me. A level of
I was so confident because I'm like, there's just no way. And then, if that meant that we'd have.
Wait, so what's the ruling? Because Brad, you missed this. We had this debate at my housewarming like last weekend. This was this was a big debate of like how this would work. So what's the actual ruling then? Because I don't know this.
So that we've seen the core rules now, because again, the embargo's lifted, and they actually have a paragraph in there specifically that says when you roll a D3, it's the result is 3. There's 3 results. There's only 3 sides on a D3. There's not 6.
Sure.
So when it says roll a D3 on a 2+, and it actually uses that example. It says on a 2+, it would be a 2. So there's no ambiguity about it. It's actually explained in the very first page of the here's the core concept.
So if you roll a 1 or a 2 on a D6 to do a D3, you get 0.
Yes. So all the things we see that say roll D3 on 2+, blah, 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 there's 3 results. There's nothing happens, or there's a 2, or there's a 3.
Because the results are 1, 2, and 3. Right.
Sounds Sounds like it's close, but I'm gonna hold out for the FAQ if I'm honest. All right.
So if they FAQ it back, does Brad still have to buy all the Mandrels Skaven Tide box? I feel like the FAQ.
Hey,
I feel like it should
I don't
hold.
know.
I feel like it should hold.
So I don't know. This is interesting. They have this. The more I looked at this later on, the more I saw that this subfaction tease advancing infantry under the scouring shroud of the Everwinter. So currently that's kind of called, that's like the Winterbite subfaction. It's the one that focuses on Yetis and other things. There really isn't infantry in the Beastclaw Raiders other than Yetis. So I don't know if it still is just the Yeti one. But Yetis seem like they would be beasts to me, so I don't know. I'm really curious what they're talking about here. Yeah, ogres. I'm honestly kind of excited. The more the prayer also, they got me thinking about chanting in your opponent's phase for CP, and it got me thinking that you can actually build up these chanting points faster than you think, as long as you don't roll one. Because I can, if I'm going second, I can chant in your turn, Brad, and start getting points to get towards this 10+ chanting roll.
I think it's really going to rely on that. I think this is one of the ones that, because and so many of them other prayers we've seen, it's like a 4 and then a 50, so a 50-50 you get the main ability. I kind of don't care about the main ability for this prayer almost at all. The only thing I want is the ward, and getting to 10 when a 1 can subtract D3, getting to 10 you might need to chant this 3 or 4 times, and there's going to be a world where you just never even get there. So if you weren't chanting in your opponent's turn, you could have been like, you bought a priest, he's on a monster, he's on a Thunder Tusk or something, so you got this 300 point dork that's moving around, and I roll the die and I roll the die and I roll the die, and I got up to 7 points, and then now I'm back down to 4 points, and you just never get there.
Right.
So this is of all the prayers where I'm like, I don't know, man. This feels like a gambler's trap.
It's unlimited. It's unlimited, so you could have this running on multiple priests, but that kind of means I don't know. Well, a good thing is, for example, can I turn my Frostlord into a priest like I currently can? How many priests? How many priests am I going to have? Right? Because like you said, these are expensive priests. There's no foot priest in this army.
Even if there was a foot priest, this is the thing ogres have always had trouble with. You've got this gut magic stuff. I have this on the Gutbuster side with the wizards, that there's no such thing as a cheap. It's like, the butchers are a foot guy, but you're paying for this ogre profile.
You're paying for an ogre
that comes along with it.
Right.
That you don't want your butcher to get into combat, but you're paying for 4 attacks that do 2 damage each or whatever,
Right.
So that's just always been a thing. One of the challenges with support heroes and stuff in ogres, you want them to all be getting into combat, and you're paying a premium for combat, but then you have to bring that along for when you're doing prayers and stuff. So
I do, as somebody that likes KG play, I do really love the subtle focus, especially in the Beastclaw range, towards that these are actually stealthy, naturalistic. They're like the Sylvaneth of destruction, right? They like nature. They have all their pets, and they love their pets, and they're sneaking up on you in the winter. I kind of like the vibe. So we'll see. I really want to see more of this. We do get Kragnos's War Scroll in this preview as well, if you recall. He looks...
And Kragnos looks awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
As he
Kragnos
should.
is ridiculous. Kragnos is real good.
So for me, he was kind of he's the bright point of this whole faction focus, which is, a bit of a bummer that he's not an ogre. I don't care. I'm not one of the people who's like, no, I played ogres. I don't want to run Kragnos because he's this centaur from somewhere else. Fine, I'll run Kragnos. He's fun, cool model, whatever. I'll put him in ogres. But he kind of doubles up with stuff that ogres already wanting to be doing. So yeah, I don't know. I'll just give. This was my deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that the army is going to be terrible. I think the army is going to be okay. But when we're talking about hype level, and more than anything, I'm rating the preview. I'm not rating even necessarily the rules, but the preview was, here's a list of all the things you lost.
Yeah.
And we didn't give you the only thing that felt like it was like this is a new idea and might be kind of exciting new thing to play with is the prayer. And I look at that prayer and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to chant that prayer.
Yeah,
Um,
I as a Beastclaw Raider person, the Beastclaw Raider part looks a little more exciting than what they show for Mawtribes too. I'm not looking at, the Glutton War Scroll didn't make me get excited.
No, the gluttons are. I'm going to say this now. Gluttons are bad. We shouldn't be like rating like we don't know. We haven't seen the whole picture. But I
Yeah.
look at this and if you play with them, if you're controlling them, you learn this lesson really quickly. You look at that, you're like, oh, they have 4 wounds. That's going to be a lot of wounds to chew through. These are clan rats. Think of these like clan rats.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of durability that they have. You're going to be
They
paying
disappear.
a lot of points. 5-up save, but the 5-up save makes that 4 wounds just not matter near as much as you think it should.
Right.
Compared to brutes where they have 3 wounds but a 3-up save,
Right.
and they hit almost as hard. Like brutes are going to be amazing. Gluttons, if you do the what you're supposed to be doing with ogres, where you're pushing everyone forward. Say you had like a unit of Iron Guts or Stonehorn or something, and you had a unit of Gluttons that go in at the same time. Unless you had some way of activating 2 units or like giving someone fight last or fight first, you'll swing with the really heavy damage dealing one, and then the Gluttons just die.
And you'll
And
notice
you don't even get to attack with them. They're just dead.
And you'll notice that I think they're very, very shy away from giving things like ogres or destruction armies fight first, or that's not a common mechanic in the army, right? In the whole Grand Alliance. Yeah. What do you think, Steven?
Yeah.
You say?
Yeah, I agree. I think D. I'm not really excited. I'm not hyped. Like, I mean, a big part of this for me is that I just want to see new ogre stuff. Like, I think what they've got right now is fine, but it's very old now. Like, a lot of this range is very old, and I think they're probably due a refresh. I probably imagine we'll see one in 4th edition, honestly, for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not really excited. Like, what they previewed didn't excite me. I agree that the stuff doesn't look like it. I don't know if the Eternal Balance will be good, because we've seen so little. So, yeah, I'm not like, yeah, you'll play them, and Brad will play them, and I'll play against them a whole bunch, but I'm like, compared to like what we saw with like Kruleboyz and Lumineth and all these other factions, I feel like I'm just like, meh.
Yeah, I think we know that they are. We've said this a million times on this channel, that we know they have a new vision of how they want an ogre to look like, which is that blood-pelt hunter. And frankly, now we've seen another ogre, which is the cities guy, right? And these models are cool, so it's going to be interesting to see ogres. The whole line needs a refresh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Gorges just got it, and actually, I don't know. I feel like there's a tell here, because like you remember, like about
Gorgers look good, by the way. Gorgers look good.
Yeah, the Gorges are really nice, and about 9 months before they redid the Seraphon, we just randomly got those new chameleon skinks just for no reason whatsoever, and I'm like, oh, okay. So like, I think the Gorges might be the first part of the refresh wave that we're gonna get, and it's probably gonna drop sometime middle of next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that. I think this is a pattern we've seen many times where, they work on all these models, I'm sure, all at once. And so if there's a refresh, which there probably is, it's almost certainly already done.
Yep.
And these are models from that kind of, this and the Maw Pit just wandered into 3rd edition.
Yeah.
As we've seen before, at the end of 2nd, a bunch of Slaanesh and like that later got refreshes, or actually Slaanesh was finishing off their refresh. But Seraph, there were things like that, like Croak wandered in, from
we saw Croak, then we saw the chameleon skinks, and then the whole other range dropped. Like
I will say the Gorgers here, the Gorger War Scroll is definitely improved. I like that they have an anti-infantry role now.
Their like deep strike thing is kind of scary.
Yeah, and so there's I hate to be purely negative, because I'm not really rarely in life am I purely negative, but like the bright side of being a D is that there's so much room for improvement. And that improvement can come just with the index drop. It could be that we get the index.
I think so, too.
Like, oh.
Yeah, we're talking purely hype levels now, and I don't think D means we're like, they're like, screw these guys, they are poo. It's more like, well, there's not a lot that really is exciting to look at here that makes us hype. It's just sort of like, eh.
Honestly, I probably would put them at B. I think that the Stonehorn sheet looks good. I know that they lost their award, but I know the Vulture, my favorite, got much more reasonable.
I'm so glad they got rid
Yeah,
of that.
I am too. I am too.
Oh my god.
All the weapon options look interesting now. I think the chain is probably the best, but I probably put these guys in a B. To me, like the Huskgarter and Stonehorn looks fun. He looks good.
Yeah.
Wounding on 2s is good. I
Like
already
we've said, he's probably an item away from being like really, really good again. Like,
I mean, the Rampage is crazy. Giving him a sorry, you pick a friendly and enemy monster. Yeah, giving him or another monster critical 2 hits on the Stonehorn horns. That's scary.
Yep.
This is a 4 damage weapon on the charge, right?
mm-hmm.
And giving -1 hit rolls to the companion on the other monster. He's going like I think he looks good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
The -1 damage is not nothing, honestly. So we'll see. Okay, but we'll put him at D. And speaking of D, slaves to D. Here we go. This one? How are we feeling on this one?
I thought this was one of the strongest previews.
Yeah, I'm an S with slaves. to
Oh
darkness.
wow! Right out of the gate with an S, Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Brad, why?
They're so again, it's another case where like we lost a few things, but what we kept is fun and good and like interesting choices. I mean, the marks aren't all at the same level. There's like it still suffers from like there's like 2 marks that are like you're gonna pick these for a lot of your units.
You're not into the 4 up. You're not into the 4 up ward against mortal damage.
The Tzeentch mark yet again. I think if you go all the way back to first edition, I want to say it was like a save improvement, and they're really wary of that. They're like generically improving saves, so that's understandable. But it's so narrow. It's just not something I think you're going to pick. But the Eye of the Gods, despite the fact that you can't emerge to a Demon Prince from a purely kind of flavorful kind of Timmy thing, or like My Guy Ascends is super cool. That's a loss, but it meant that the Demon Prince scroll could be good now, because that was what was holding him back all this time. Because you could just get a Demon Prince out of nowhere before, and so you didn't want that to be too strong. I feel like now it kind of like severed the chains. The Demon Prince can be amazing. And then just what you get then with the Eye of the Gods, like getting to roll and then getting to re-roll if you want, like, man, you're going to, and the fact that it can apply to unique things now, like, you're going to be juiced. Like Be'lakor is going to be rolling on the Eye of the Gods table. Archaon. Yeah. So that's all great. And then the War Scrolls we saw are awesome. The sub-faction is like strong in an interesting in a just a solid way, and doesn't shoehorn you into certain army construction. So yeah, I think they're I have almost 2,000 points of Slaves of Darkness painted. Just needs Be'lakor to be finished, and I know we've got Team Archaon and Team Be'lakor on the channel. I'm Team Be'lakor, but
not really. We have Team
Team Varangard is.
Who's the new Abraxia?
Oh yeah, there we go.
My Slaves to Darkness faction army doesn't have. I don't have any of the leaders painted up. Yeah, I think what's kind of funny. We kept talking about this with Saray. We were talking about the Tzeentch mark. It's not even bad. It's actually quite good. It's just that you'll never take it over these other 4. Like. You can kind of build an army around the other 4 and know what's going to happen, but the Tzeentch one, it's not really the case. Like the Tzeentch one is not. Yeah, you would never pick it over these other 4.
If the Tzeentch one was just like the old Chaos Rune Shield rule, which the Knights lost and probably Chaos Warriors lost, although we haven't seen their
but just mortal damage period.
But if it was just a 4-up ward against all mortal damage, and with the amount of mortal damage we've still seen in the game,
then
it'd be like, oh wow, okay, maybe I'll take that one. But the fact that it's limited to just spells, there's going to be certain armies it just does nothing.
Well, it's competing. The problem with it is it's competing with Nurgle, and it's like, how? All right, I want to make my unit more durable. What's better than just -1 to? Honestly, if they wanted to compete with Nurgle, with it. in a slightly interesting and compelling way on particular units, they would have given it the Stonehorn rule. Ignore the first damage each phase. Like, that's actually what they would have done. You would have put it on units that aren't going into the fray, that are hanging back. People are going to do chip stuff into them. But why try to compete with this Nurgle one? You'll never pick it. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you want it to be something that like, because there's going to be a few units in the army that have that keyword locked, right? Like the Mutilith Vortex Beast and the Silver Tower guy, who's I'm blanking on him at the moment.
Gaunt Summoner. Gaunt
Summoner. They're locked to this, so like this is with the ability that they're going to have, and like
it's not bad.
Is that really, But if it was just more generically useful, I think is just what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I think it's really solid. I think you get good fun choices.
Demon Prince looks great. Demon Prince looks so fun.
Yeah. And the army range, it's all fully refreshed now, and it's just gorgeous models. Like, you don't feel bad about any of the choices you make.
This is the premium Chaos faction now, like fully free refreshed range, gorgeous range, like all the way from the tippy top of Archeon all the way to the bottom with like the Dark Oath stuff, right? It's gorgeous. The whole range looks amazing. It's all brand new. These rules look amazing. Like I think if you're a Slaves to Darkness player, you're dining well. I think this is your edition. I would lean hard into it. And thank God that Demon Prince model, which is amazing, finally has rules that look good.
Serena and I worked out that a Zach style 60 Dark Oath Marauder list would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be dope. I'm kind of sad that you all do this army. I sold my FOMO box last week on eBay because I'm like, well, Brad has these and Zach's doing these and Siri has these, so like there's no real point in me doing this army. So I'll just send this box to someone who's gonna get excited for this because these guys are cool.
Are we saying S tier for this?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
All right, interesting. Okay.
I think this is their time. I think this is like if someone was getting new into the game and they are partial to heavy metal, I would be like, hey, you should probably just pick up Slaves to Darkness because their entire range is brand new and they look amazing and their rules seem like they're gonna be very varied but very powerful, no matter which way you go. I think, I like my hope and dreams is that the Stormcast book is even a close fraction of this good in terms of like flexibility, play style, options, because like similar size range, similar like newness. They just need the rules to back them up because that book now, this could be the new. How we kind of looked at Gitz in 3rd edition and went, this is the benchmark. This is what Battletome should be in terms of like variety, flexibility, tactical depth, like unit variety. The Slaves to Darkness one, looking at this preview, might be that new one. It might be this now is the high mark of what a Battletome could be.
Yeah.
Let me take a minute before we move on to the home stretch here to thank Polly, big supporter of the channel. Polly, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. And we appreciate it as always. And Vindicatus super chats. He says, Slaves to Darkness is an S tier range for me. We agree. The faction focus has me stoked to get them on the board. I'll be curious to see if there are limitations on taking lords versus princes and what each can take in their retinue.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad he brought that up because one thing we haven't seen in any of these faction focuses, well, we haven't seen spells and artifacts, but those will be fun surprises to open later.
Yeah.
But what units go in which regiments for which heroes?
Yeah.
Is going to do so much. Depending on how restrictive that is, it's going to do so much to change the shape of these armies, and we just have no idea what that's going to be right now. And
he brings up the Demon Prince, right?
Yeah, and it might, right, exactly. It might turn some of these, A's into B's or whatever, maybe the other way around. It's hard to know. I think we're all hoping that it's not going to be super restrictive. I think
I was reading...
if you're 40K...
Sorry, Brad. Sorry. I was reading the Goonhammer put out a couple good articles about the core rules and the advanced rules. And they did say that they felt like the regiments all pretty much made sense. Like, they were very intuitive and you could kind of figure that out. But I think that puts a Demon Prince in an interesting spot. Furies? I don't know. Right? What goes in his regiment? Like more little deep.
It's a good question. Yeah, if he's sort of like a supreme, if he's supposed to be, narratively, he's like, if you're not running a god or Be'lakor, or one of these name characters, he's like the top of that pyramid. This is his warband. and he's ascended, you would think he'd be able to bring almost anything. But
then
maybe,
you look at
you know,
units like Lords and
Right.
Exalted Champion, right? I'm sure the Exalted Champion can take Chosen because he pretty much is a Chosen. I'm sure Lord can take Warriors. I'm sure the Mounted guys take Cavalry. Yeah, maybe to me, I'm like the Demon Prince either takes everything or he takes like I said, Furies and like the Razor Wing Flock or whatever. Like,
Yeah, Polly says, yeah, it goes with Chaos Warriors and such. He ascended. That makes a lot of sense. Like if he was like, if you just took the whatever the Chaos Lord has and then like just copied and pasted with the Demon Prince, maybe with a few other little things like Furies or something. Like he's
Yeah.
one with the
Yeah, I
demons
mean,
now.
he's a chosen that's he's a
Yeah.
lord, right? That's turned into a demon. So, you know.
And
I
then
don't know
maybe
why he
not all
wouldn't
the,
take it.
not all the Dark Oath stuff. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to bring Dark Oath, you bring the Dark Oath leaders.
You're probably bringing Dark
Chief.
Oath leaders, yeah.
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 Okay, well, thanks Vindicatus for the support. Also, we appreciate it. This brings us to an interesting one: Soulblight Gravelords. Now, a quick call out here to Liberty Fires, another big supporter of the channel. I don't know if he's here today. I'll be honest, I've been wanting to do the ranking, but Liberty Fires beat me to it, and he had Soulblight ranked kind of interestingly. He is a Soulblight player. He's sort of the person that made me think we should do it based on hype. So I want to credit Liberty Fires for the ranking concept, and he threw his ranking out in our Discord. What are you guys feeling? Brad, you play Soulblight. Steven, because you play Age of Sigmar, you play against Soulblight all the time. I think
It's true.
I'm fairly convinced it is in 40K. We're always told that Space Marines are the most popular faction, but I think GW engineers that. I think they do the same thing with Stormcast. I think in 40K, Tau is actually like organically the most popular faction. I'm kind of convinced Soulblight is organically the most popular faction in.
They're definitely in like the top 5.
Yeah,
Like Vampire
yeah.
counts, huge legacy, like great theme, like iconic visual style.
You could build you could build all over the
Yeah.
place. You could do so many things
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely popular.
How
yeah,
do we
I mean, this,
how we
this
feel about
preview's
this?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the thing that stood out for me, I think this might be one of the most complex armies. I think to play, their rules are very, I would say, finicky. There's a lot of things going on and a lot of stuff to keep track of, and I think this army is going to take finesse to play like to a high level, based on this preview. I still think they've kept the flavor very strong. Like I still feel like vampires are vampires, and they've got their death rattle minions, and then there's like the other fringe stuff, like the weird monster vampires, and then the wolf kind of the soul blighted people. Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not super hyped about it because I know I'm gonna get to play against it, and I know I'm gonna see it everywhere, and I know they're gonna be an army that I come across like all the time. So I'm just like, yeah, sure. Like they seem just like they were. They seem pretty good, and they've got their shenanigans, and
John,
I'm not super hype. I'd be like B.
between Brad's collection, but even Meg's collection is so many models and so split that her and John literally did a Vierkros versus Legion of Blood game that the list like totally made sense. Maybe the only thing missing was they both didn't have a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon because we just
Yeah,
have one.
it's a deep book. We've always said this. It's got
Deep book.
incredible depth to it. This book.
Brad has a ton of this. Megan has a ton of this. So yeah, this is maybe the faction we've shown on our channel the most. I think.
Yeah.
Brad, what do you think?
And it also,
Yeah.
I put this. I'm going to put it at a solid A. I think it's a lot of the other armies that we saw had their battle traits boiled down to kind of like you either have this and then this one other thing, or you only have like one major theme and all your mechanics interact with that one theme. But this is one where they've kind of preserved a couple different, like it was always the what the vampires did was always this kind of like smorgasbord of like you've got this and you got this, you get these cool things, you bring guys back, and you got all table shenanigans and stuff, and they kind of kept that, and I like that. I like that. If there's an army where you kind of like, I've got all these kind of cool special things I can do, they still do it. The hunger, well, I think was kind of fixed. It was a little too strong in third. I'm glad that it's still here, but the timing is just more fair.
You get this you get this consolation prize where rather than healing an insane amount, well, actually, it can still heal an insane amount, but you also get to do it every turn now.
Yes,
I guess
it's still
I guess you still did, but yeah.
But we saw, you're just gonna, if you had like a monster hero, especially, you were just gonna max out that 6, and like immediately after fighting was just so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So still strong, but a little bit more fair. And I think that's kind of the theme with all these. Like,
Yeah.
I love that it's a command point to bring a unit back, because when you're on the opposite side of that, you see that the Soulblight player is like actually has to pay something for that,
Right.
and it just feels like, okay, we're all playing the same game. You don't just get free stuff. But it also gives you, because it's a command point now, it just gives you agency as
Right.
the Soulblight player. Now you're thinking, okay, I need to reserve one for this, and then I get it when I want it. I paid the point. I got my guys. I'm not rolling and rolling. So love all that. And then the war scrolls that we saw, also just like Radikar the Beast. I like that he's a wizard now. Like,
Vampires
I'm not
should
sure
be
about
wizards.
the flavor of that.
Vampires should be wizards.
Yeah, he was the one that wasn't, or actually a couple other.
All the Virkos family, Ivya, Volga, and if any of those are wizards now, they'll be so much. Even just being a wizard is going to make them so much better.
Yeah, especially now that they all share the War Scroll and unlimited spells are a thing.
Vile Transference. The only thing I think is a little weird, I think Vile Transference as the unlimited spell is. I'm going to be not happy to be playing Daughters or Nighthaunt against Soulblight, but my ogres don't care. Like, this is an anti-horde spell, and so it's a little weird. Honestly,
it's on a 6 though. It's like you're not going to do even a big unit. You're not going to do
not
that.
that
Like, think
bad.
about how many times I've rolled for Bastion's laser beam. Right?
I know.
And
Honestly,
I'll be rolling 18 dice. How many 6s do I get? Usually like 2.
Honestly, I like it because as an unlimited spell, a lot of times at the end, you're like, I don't know what else to do. You just toss a few of these and see what you can get. But I guess I kind of wish maybe it was something like, if the target is one model, on a 2-up, we've seen a lot of choice spells and stuff, like pick one of the effects. I guess that would have been a little more cool, but whatever. They look like they're in a good place overall, I think.
I think this is going back to like the last point about the Vampire Wizard. It's probably going to be continue to be an army that has a lot of wizards, and maybe even more wizards.
Yeah.
And one thing that also gets left out of all of this, because it's universal, is that we all get manifestation lores, and so you're going to have this other sideboard of potentially very impactful spells that you can cast with your like 3rd and 4th and 5th spell casts. They'll feel like a powerful magic army just because they have so much of it, not necessarily because like they're getting +3 to cast or something. I don't know. I think they're going to be, they've always been that kind of like, you tech into like this aspect or this aspect. They still feel like they're going to be that, very heavy on named characters, but then that means that you have a lot of like individual flavor with your guys. So
yeah.
Liam
says, thank you, Liam, by the way, for the support, for the super chat. I'm S rank on Soulblight Gravelords because I can finally run an all Death Rattle army without feeling like the core sub-faction rules are punishing me for the theme. And that's a reoccurring thing that 4th Ed is pulling out. But yeah, that's true. And they even give you a sub-faction for Death Rattle units. By the way, the Death Rattle ability, you're like, oh, that's too bad. They already have that. But now, presumably, we're getting it on Graveguard and Black Knights as well. Which could be good.
I anticipate the Graveguard are going to continue to be a glass hammer, but a very, very hammery glass hammer.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if the Necromancer has Van Hel still, like on his scroll, if that's his spell, like, oh boy,
Yeah.
That spell has famously been amazing every time they've put it on anyone.
Where are we putting this?
I'm going to put it at an A, and I think this is one where it might move up when we see the index. It kind of depends on. This is one of those armies that has an abundance of oddball units that are rarely seen. I'm just always excited when indexes come along and you get to see like, okay, they're going to take another crack at this. What are they going to do with the Blood Plank win and the Mortis engine and like stuff? The Terrorgeist with that. Well, I think we've already seen that Flesh Eater Courts with Terrorgeist with that amount does, but
he looks okay.
Like, But
Yeah.
like, there's just these other big fun pieces that are like, these goofy fun hobby projects that have another chance. So if any of those are like good and build arounds,
Yeah.
then it's even more ways that you can build the army, and it's even more exciting. So
Yeah, that's a good call. There are hidden units in there, right? I was excited, honestly. I've been telling Megan, oh, you need to get Virkros Bloodborne. They're so cool looking, and she has all the Virkros stuff. I love that Radikar's ability is Death Rattle, Deadwalker, and Virkros Bloodborns he buffs, which is cool. And those are the little guys all over his base. And so she's like, oh, cool, yeah, I want to get a unit of them now. So they're not bad. It's just you would never spend the points to take them currently. Steven, what do you put this at?
I like B.
You like B? All right,
Yeah.
I'm breaking the tie up at A. Now I will say this. Yeah, Liberty Fires actually put this at a D because he says while it looks good, he didn't feel like it changed all that much. And Megan actually said the same thing, and she was positive on it. She was like, I don't really feel like I have to learn much new. It's just
Yeah.
little twists and tweaks of my current army.
The army worked really well. I think I think
It's a
they
good
crushed
army,
it
yeah.
when they released the book at the very, very end of second edition, then barely changed it for third edition. I think it's
Right.
because they're onto a
Yeah.
good thing. So why break it?
We talked about the exact same thing, Steven, Saray, and I, when we reviewed this book. We said same thing. We said it works. It's tried and true. Little
Yep.
tweaks here and there to make it more fun, change it up, but you don't want to mess with it too much. Okay, all right, we're getting down to the wire here. Stormcast, of all things, can you believe it? Back to the very beginning. I don't even remember anything about these guys.
Indrasta.
Yndrasta.
do you want to kick this off, Steven?
Yeah, I'm S for this.
Oh, wow.
I think I like that I like the battle traits. I think I'm glad that they've just got rid of the Stormkeep bullshit, and it's just like, yep, Stormcast come down on lightning. That's what they do. This is how they go. And that's just a thing now.
They're born into the world on lightning, and they leave the world
Yep.
in a blast
And
of lightning.
and like, yeah, the fact that they have you can bring a unit back for a command point, just like, yep, I'll take that. And I love that their finest hour is just their rule now. They're just like, you're all scrubs, we're the finest hour
We
now.
got
And I
finest hour.
It's so good. It's amazing, and it can affect units as well. This rule is real good. Like, I think, I like that they're actually thinking about, okay, these are meant to be our demigod super soldiers of this setting, and I feel like they're getting there now. I feel like, okay, it's going to be a small elite army. They've got cool prayer, cool sub-faction, cool universal rules. And then I was happy with the scrolls they showed. I think Krondys seems really dope now. I'm like, okay, I'm going to paint my Krondys up after Yndrasta. And like, the Andrasta scroll immediately was like, okay, if this is the preview of what they're doing with Stormcast, I am now hyped for Stormcast, because I feel like the days of everyone spam 10 dragons because nothing else in the book does anything, I feel like we're getting away from that now, and we're actually going to see some variety, and we're going to see different builds. I like that they've kind of shifted some stuff over to the new chamber, so they can kind of give the chambers the distinct feelings, the Ruination Chamber stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I'm stoked for these guys. These are going to be, I think, the army I focus on at the start of the edition. I want to give them a real run. Yeah, I'm stoked to see, because this book has the problem of it has 8,000 war scrolls.
Yeah,
And
well,
90%
a few
of
less
them
now,
suck.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they've got rid of the one chamber, which is fine. But there's still a lot of foot heroes, and I'm kind of hoping that when we see the actual thing, that they've either given them all a unique flavor or they've just condensed them down.
Well, like this Knight Arcanum, right? Like, this is sort of one of the things that I think a lot of people get annoyed about when they're like the poster boy faction. When they look into from outside, they're like, this Knight Arcanum, right? She gets everything in the world to deal with manifestations, and at the same time, it's still kind of a similar problem. It's like, man, I don't get something to deal with manifestations. But then you're like, well, if I had it, would I take it?
Yeah.
Because I don't know that anyone's going to take her. I understand manifestations are free and they're going to be running around, but like, do you take her? Like, for that, just for that? I don't know that you do. Like, so they have still a lot of that, Stephen, like you're saying, with the foot heroes especially. It's like, here's a foot hero. It helps units shooting with an 18 get +1 to hit if they didn't move. It's like very specific. It's like I don't know that I care. I don't know that I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
It's a toolbox. I do agree with that like the value of the Knight Arcanum specifically is going to like really depend on how as the meta starts to shape up, and even your own little local meta. You're like you got a buddy who just like loves manifestations and is always just wrecking your face with like the jaws or something.
Right.
Then you're like I'm gonna bring that because this is a counter.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that units like that exist, because if you don't have anything that has like that really kind of techie, counter sort of feel to it, then we're all kind of playing just the core game, and there's like
right.
the list building just ends up being about synergies and stuff and not about like counterplay and whatnot with the meta at large. So I think that's a perfectly fine design space. However, hopefully that's not like the only kind of design space they use for the foot heroes.
Yeah.
That some are like, yeah, here's a power pair, where you're going to take, I don't know, like say Prosecutor. Well, we've seen the Night Azuros model now. Maybe I don't know if we've seen his rules, but like,
no.
The here's Prosecutor, and then this pairs with that one unit specifically, and there's a reason then for like if this unit's good, that guy's good. Like
yeah,
and
they
have a big stable of potential there. I'm S tier. I'm S for Stormcast.
All right.
I think with the inclusion of their finest hour, it's like the last puzzle piece that now it feels like they actually have allegiance abilities for the first time in the history of Age of Sigmar, where like they're playing with the same kind of suite of fun stuff that every other army in the game gets.
Yeah.
And because there were like for half the history of the game, it was like Stormcast and Deep Strike.
Right.
That's it. That was the only thing you got to do, and now you get to do these other cool things that feel flavorful. And then all the other rules they showed us are cool and fun. Like the one about the Ruination Chamber, you can hand someone a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, very
it gives
good.
you an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Plus,
there's a lot of
they're
that.
they're gonna get a big range refresh, right? With this release, like we already know they're gonna get probably a dozen more kits because that's always the method. So I'm just like I'm really really stoked to see those refreshes of the Warrior Chamber and what they look like, because those kits like they look a bit dated now. I'm excited for new Paladins, and yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic this time that maybe their book will survive longer than a year and not just boil down to, well, I'm taking that one scroll 4 times because it's the only scroll worth a damn.
Yeah.
Okay,
I also have a Stormcast army, but it's mostly sacrosanct.
So you don't have a Stormcast
So
army.
you don't have
I do. They're gonna get rules, and then I'm definitely in the like legends are real rules camp.
Yeah, we'll play them on stream for sure.
The community should huddle around and circle the wagons and be like, let's protect legends rules and actually like encourage people to use them, because it sucks to be told.
I think you're right.
You can't play with your toys. But at the same time, they're all painted as like this kind of variant of Hammers of Sigmar. I'm gonna start over at some point. Not early 4th edition. I'm going to do Knights Excelsior. I love that white scheme. I'll just start over and do a whole new collection, and go from there. But I think they're awesome. I'm looking forward to playing against them.
We'll see that on the table in like mid-August. Sounds like. Okay, so I'm a little surprised on the S tier ranking from you guys. For me, they were kind of B, but cool. Yeah, I'm also happy to put them in S. I do like the little. I think they're going to be a good army. I think they made this army, and I don't want to diminish anything from people who this is their main army, but it looks like a very good army rules-wise for new players. You pick that unit, they get +1 wound, +1 save. You pick that unit, they get a 5-up ward. Like you kind of, their prayers are all. All their spells in 3rd ed are just like a version of D3 Mortal Wounds. I'm guessing that's going to stay the same. So I think it looks like a good, like, simple army, and I mean that in a positive way.
Well, yeah, but it's like there's always got to be room for those armies. Like they can't all be Soulblight Gravelords, otherwise we're basically just playing War Machine, right? At that point, it's like we're all doing crazy complex stuff, like Ironjawz. There's no complexity to Ironjawz.
Yeah.
The big cows go burr and they run across the board and you kill whatever they touch, right? There has to be armies that fulfill that niche, like, and I think Stormcast having that. But I think again that book is so dense. There will be complex playstyles that people find in there, and there will be kind of like surprising combos and interesting pieces that fit together in a very complex way that make the army play differently and feel different. My hope is that it just survives longer than the first wave of battle tomes, because that's always the problem.
Yeah.
It's always the first book out the gate, and by a year in, it's just not on the level.
Right.
But I feel like because this is a big reset, and because they're kind of thinking about all the armies together from the beginning, I'm kind of hopeful that they're going to survive that, and it's not going to be the case, and the book's actually going to have significant legs way down the road, because they're kind of re-leveling the playing field.
Yeah. I also hope they kind of do the 2 books at a time thing that they did. Okay.
Yeah. Seraphon.
We're in the home stretch here, guys, and I think we'll save our other segments for next week. As exciting as they are, I assumed it would take us 45 minutes to rank all of these, and it's closer to like 2 hours now, so that's fine. But we'll have some stuff for next time, which will be fun. Seraphon, what are we thinking? This was a weird
I'm kind of S for Seraphon.
Oh, wow, Steven.
Kind of hyped for them.
Positive Steven coming out here towards the end.
I just thought it was these are probably the next army on my queue.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one FOMO box I didn't get rid of. I was like, no, I actually kind of want to do these guys, because I feel like the reason I didn't do them was because everyone was just like, the book was so unhinged in how it was playing, and there was like, well, you either do this and go all in on these, or you do this and you go all in on this combo, and that's it. The book, there is no middle ground in the book. That's either this one or this one, and that's it. And I feel like this preview is like, okay, they finally figured out how to do them, where you can
blend it,
kind of take
a
bit of everything, blend it up. They're not creating this immediate divide of, you are either coalesced or you are starborn, and there is these two things do not mix. They are 2 different things, and you're either all in on Slann or you're all in on giant dinosaurs.
Almost 2 different armies that use the same models, right?
Yeah, essentially, a completely different play styles. And I love where they're positioning these now. Like, the Old Blood looked really cool. The Slann looked really cool. The Kroxigors from way back when they showed just a scroll off to show us how 4th edition looked. I thought that scroll looked really interesting.
Yeah, they do look good.
The Engine of the Gods still sucks ass, and that's fine. But I'm just like, don't buy Stegodons. Stegodons are apparently now like the bane of GW's life, and they just want everyone to be miserable. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to play this army. I'm excited to get these rules and build around it. I love the different passives and how the Great Plan now works. I think is a really fun system of picking your effect based on what you're playing against, and then potentially getting a second one as the game goes on. I love how that plays. So yeah, I don't know. I thought this preview was really, really interesting.
Hey kid, like dinosaurs? We got a whole dinosaur army. Oh, what's your favorite dinosaur? Triceratops?
Yeah,
fuck you.
Well, fuck
right.
You then. We have 4 different variants of Triceratops already. All good? No, they're not. They're all terrible.
See, we have a new system where everything gets a ranking based on like if it's a human, elf, or a dwarf. And when we went through and did that, what we figured out is that Triceratopses suck at everything.
Yeah.
And we made a war scroll to reflect that.
Yeah. Don't know what their thinking is with that scroll, but whatever.
Brad, how are you feeling on like even the battle trait, right? Like picking the things at the start of deployment, super cool. How are you feeling?
I'm a solid B on this one.
Oh, okay.
I do agree. I think the battle traits. This is one of the armies that just got the battle traits just got completely reinvented, and what they came up with was cool and fun. It's like kind of a variation of some of the others that we've seen, where it's like pick from this menu of things, but but in its own unique way, where like you get one and then you achieve the goal and then you get a second. I think it's cool and fun. I think that's a good framework, and it doesn't shoehorn you into a particular kind of build like the Starborn and whatnot did. Having said that, I think the War Scrolls I was a little cold on, but again, it was just the sampling of what they did. None of them really spoke to me, but that's also this is one of the armies where like my brother plays this army, and it's the only army that he plays in Sigmar or will play. He's been collecting it.
So you played it a million times.
This has been one where like, yeah, it's like I'm not going to touch it because I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I want to encourage everyone to play. So I'm always going to be on the receiving end of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of right there, like it just kind of mitigates my hype level. But I think what they've got is fun and interesting, and they managed to survive this transition to something that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun for other people to play. So yeah, I just give it a B. It's not a bad grade. It's just it's solid. It just feels solid.
I think it's good to split the difference. We'll put it in A. Steven, were you here when we went through this one? Did you go through this one with Saray and I?
Yeah, well, I was in chat. Yeah,
You're in chat. One of the weirdest things about this army is, as we've looked through it, I think that it is weirdly maybe going to be one of the most durable armies in the game. I know that we haven't seen Skinks, and we know Skinks will probably have a 5 or a 6 up, but there are so many. So there's a number of ways just right out of the gate to subtract rend. And they have an unlimited spell that subtracts rend. Subtracting rend is going to be a hot way to be more durable and adorable. Barry, yes, it is. It can be a very adorable.
They're adorably durable.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious on the durability of this army. I think it's going to be kind of high.
I think this is going to be the army I start. This is going to be my spearhead army, I think, to start with.
Okay.
I want to get a feel for them. I want to kind of see how they feel on a smaller scale and play with them as I slowly build up to a 2K army. Because I want to, again, this is going to be an army that I want to put some energy and time into painting and not really worrying about getting 2K on the table.
Right.
Because I just love the visual of this army.
Of course, yeah.
The Aztec Incan themes and the dinosaurs with the colors. I just really want to. I don't want to put that pressure in having to get it all ready. So it'll be a spearhead that I then slowly grow up to something bigger.
No, it's a beautiful army. And honestly, if its range was a little bit tighter and newer, I think it would be up there for me as like those.
I can only assume it's getting a wave 2 like Slaves to Darkness did, where the wave 1 was bringing the bulk of the range up to modern standards and adding the new kits in, like the Saurus on actual giant dinosaurs. And then me and Liam were just saying, I imagine a wave 2 is coming where we get a new Stegodon, new Skinks, and new Temple Guard, because the range is stunning, except for those 3 kits, which look really dated. I think the Carnosaur doesn't need touching. I think it's totally fine.
He's good.
I think it's just those 3 kits now, and I think if they can get them done, I think the range is like up there with Slaves to Darkness and Lumineth as being like tippy top of the beautiful ranges. Because like the new Slann is gorgeous, the new Saurus are incredible. I think that I could see a little wave 2 come in, like the Ironjawz. I think they'll just be like, hey, there's a big 40k release this month, or Heresy or whatever. Also, here's some more dinosaurs that we just randomly had ready to go. It'll just sort of come out. Because they're not, it's not new kits, it's replacements for existing scrolls. So they can do that whenever they want to. They can just drop them.
Yeah, there is we did actually have a rumor engine, and normally rumor engines are like, you showed me a scrap of cloth. I said, this could be one of a million things. There was a rumor engine that is literally the exact like spiky, armored spike on the back of a Saurus. Like there's nothing else it could be. It was...
Oh, okay. So we're getting either a new hero or
Temple Guard.
Or Temple Guard. Oh man.
Yeah.
If we get new Temple Guard, these are going all the way up to S. I'm like, give me. Also, Temple Guard, the Slann Scroll need the Temple Guard. That unit is a dead frog if the Temple Guard do not exist as they currently exist. Like that's going to change a lot of that equation. Because he's very squishy.
Yeah. Tomorrow, by the way, on the hobby stream, we're going to be painting Meg's Croxagors up there right here.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, super cool.
Yeah, those models are
it's really
so
cool.
so nice.
I love the size of this thing. Yeah.
Croxagors are one of those models that brings you into a faction where you're like, I just love them so much, and then like the rules say, hey, you can run 18 Croxagor. I'd be like, I guess I'm running 18 Croxagor because I just two different kinds of units, you know.
I'm expecting Rhinox Cavalry and Saurus riding the giant raptors to be terrifying because they're monstrous infantry cavalry, so they should we're seeing good stuff from the cavalry scrolls. I'm hoping monstrous cavalry is just that next tier of like Varangard, Saurus, like the Rhinox Cav. Those things the scroll should read, you do not want this thing to connect because it will blend.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad, here we go. Mostly you, Skaven.
Okay, so Skaven. I was nervous before we saw this preview, and I was nervous because there's a pattern. Steven mentioned earlier about you don't want to be one of the first 2 books,
Right.
because in 40K this happens too, where it's just like the game moves on and then you're like, oh, but I've only got these things. And we saw it with Kruleboyz in 3rd edition. We
And
kind of saw it with Nighthaunt in 2nd edition.
Stormcast really also a little bit.
Stormcast
Brad, you have to ask that question. Have Skaven ever had a bad book ever? Has that ever been a thing?
Their 3rd edition book, but we don't need to talk about the 3rd edition book anymore because we now have this stuff. So I was nervous, but and especially given we already knew at that point how much they were simplifying the army rules, and Skaven have like 4 pages of allegiance abilities for the different clans, and what we lost like almost all that, but what we got in to replace it is an awesome, fun, like they've been reinvented, and I absolutely love the way they've been reinvented. They actually kind of feel like Sylvaneth now, but like in rat form.
A little bit, right?
And, And with the knotholes, you're going to be teleporting out of the knotholes. You're summoning new knotholes on the board. You can bring back whole units, which just always felt like a thing that Skaven should have, not because of like death magic or anything, but just because there's so damn many of them. Like, like if you go, like if you had the cutaway where like the camera pans down underneath the Mortal Realms, it's just Swiss cheese with Skaven everywhere. Like,
yeah.
And that's finally now part of like the narrative of the game as a whole, and this is their time. And I think like I'm so excited about like the 3 claw steps ahead and the way that knotholes work now. I don't mind they can be smashed because now I can put them in the middle of the board, not just on the edges. Like that's all great. And then hey, how are you gonna? Who's not gonna love a bunch of new awesome units? So. I'm S.
Okay.
I'm S all over for Skaven. S for Skaven. S for Stormcast. S for Skaven. It's just cool. Warp Lightning Cannon. Really fun stuff. Radogers. I have 1 million Radogers. I have like.
Well, now you're gonna have to buy 1 million.
Now I'm gonna have another probably 6 from like 2 copies of the core box. So I'm gonna have like 20 Radogers, and we're gonna have the all Radogre meme list.
I don't think I realized how cool 3 claw steps ahead was.
It's amazing.
You just move in the hero phase.
Yeah.
A normal move ability.
These are solid S, right?
Does the normal move ability mean you could retreat?
No, it's a separate normal.
It's specifically a normal move. Okay.
Yeah.
Run, charge, move, advance, retreat are all types of movement.
Okay, not in the category anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped.
Yep, I'm same. S for me too.
Really?
S for Skaven. Yeah.
Okay.
This is such a cool army. These guys are crazy cool. Like I hate them and I'll never play them, and I refuse to paint that many models. But like I love them. I love playing against them. Like if Nurgle is the first army I played the most against, Skaven's the second. Like they're great. I love playing against Skaven. They're crazy.
The prize creation subfaction looks good. You're gonna Brad in particular is gonna still hurt himself mostly, but others will gain some of these. Others will gain some of these benefits.
Yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Between the Radogres, and I'm sure we'll see. There's probably one more. Well, we had the one molder, the big Behemoth thing, like the Super Radogre that we saw.
Oh yeah,
that will add to the list. There may be one more molder thing that we haven't seen. I think in 3rd edition at least. Storm Fiends also had the molder keyword, and it didn't matter at all because none of the molder rules interacted with the keyword on them. But now, if they still have that keyword, which they should,
they had both, right? Skyrim.
I think they could end up going Scryer.
I think they currently
previously they were a collaboration of Scryer and molder.
Yeah,
before.
I could see Rat Ogres being on the molder side and them going to Scryer, so they've got a sort of multi-wound chunky unit if you want to go heavy on the Jezzails and stuff like that.
I mean, these null holes, we're going to be tearing them down all game, but that's okay because you can bring more in, which is cool.
Yeah, no, this army looks great, and I can't wait to see all the new kits and all the different ways to play it. I think this is going to be super fun.
I think it's going to be a while. It's going to take a while too to digest the power because it's always been a tricksy army. It's got a monstrously large range. Which is shrinking a little bit, but a lot of the stuff that went away is getting replaced with new kits. So yeah, it's going to take a while to kind of unpack like what that set of particular allegiance abilities does for the huge range of war
Maybe
spells.
the extra molder model you're gonna get is a new sculpt of a master molder, because the current one's
yeah.
pretty old. I think you'll get a new one of him. Cause
I mean, he's metal. The one I have is literally
yeah,
metal,
and they've
so,
redone all.
yeah.
They've redone they've redone the sniper, the warlock engineer. They've redone another plastic gracer. So I could see him being there. And they've already done the assassin because they did him in third. So I can see him getting a new kit.
S for Stormcast, S for Skaven, S for Slaanesh.
Well, unfortunately there's no D in Slaanesh, so
I beg to differ. I think there's loads of D in Slaanesh.
Touche. All right,
man.
What do you?
Slaanesh.
Yeah, how we feel? I will say,
D. Can we just put him in D and get on with our lives? Can we please just agree that these go in D and move on?
They definitely go in D, I think, Brad. Unless you feel otherwise, I don't.
I think the army on the table will feel a little better than it looks in the preview. Having said that, this is a hype tier list, and the type is definitely D. But the biggest why does they have 2 allegiance abilities? They don't even fill the whole page, and like 2/3 of this is text describing all the cool stuff your opponent gets to do with your rules. Like, if you literally just like swapped those 2, and it's like your opponent gets crit 2 hits and can run and charge, but you get to temptation dice and you get to do stuff, you might take that bargain. I don't know, man. This is just such a miss. And I felt like they had to do something. I felt like the previous temptation from 3rd edition was a flavor home run, but as it played out, just was so terrible. I think you played with him a lot, and you either like Steve and I, one of our friends plays Slaanesh. I played against him a bunch with those rules, and he would just never hand me the temptation dice.
Yeah,
because he just he's like it just never felt like a time.
No.
And if I got one, I'd just be like, well, just whatever. I'm just gonna refuse it. Take the D3 mortal wounds. Like, so mechanically, it just was really, really clunky. They didn't figure it out. I'm really hoping when they get their book that they just like, you know what? Let's take another crack at this. Let's rewrite it from scratch. So that's where I'm at. It's D. I think the War Scrolls were actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a like eyebrow raiser with like what the Twin Souls are like the durable ones, but the same kit builds the guides with like all armor and the big shields. Like, why aren't those guys the durable ones?
Makes no sense.
We haven't seen what those guys do. Maybe they're also durable, but then now you got like 2 units that do the same thing. So I don't know.
Sorry, I'm looking here. What can I replace?
You can
wound
replace
wound, save, ward, run. Run,
Charge.
I kind of weirdly think run might, and charge and run are probably the 2 most compelling here. I mean, they all are, honestly, but wow.
If you have 1 die, if your opponent gave you 1 die, I think you do the run, because I think you're going to get the most value out of an auto run 6. It's going to score you points, and points mean prizes. So, but if they give you 2 dice, if they're really foolish or really reckless and they give you 2 dice, you just could like, it gives your opponent's giving you the power to just undo their whole turn, you know. You can countercharge on their, it's just, I don't know.
I really hope we're wrong. I really hope we're looking at like the worst parts of this, and that the army is not bad, because this model range is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
I love them, but like, man, no hype for this at all. What they revealed.
I think yeah, I don't know. I U4 Killers looks like it's a 5-up ward away from being good.
Yeah.
That's I think all it needed. So we'll see.
Maybe,
they do have some wards on their War Scrolls, but not everywhere.
Only the demons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's like Shalaxi looks amazing. Shalaxi looks genuinely really, really good.
Shalaxi's like, she's pretty serious. She probably passes the Indrasta test, to be honest.
All right, I know we're gonna trigger Steven here with his least favorite faction. We've got 2 left.
Oh my god! If either of you tell me that this doesn't belong in D, I might just not come back.
Sons of Behemat. I don't think it belongs in D.
I don't believe it.
I think they made it better. I think they made it more interesting. It gets the rampage. You get to kind of split these around.
Yeah, the rampages are cool.
And their war scrolls are I think good now. I mean the war scrolls have been fine. Broad looks very scary, which he should be.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Brad? How are you feeling on Sons of Behemat?
I'm A. I'm A on
Wow.
Sons.
Okay.
This is an army that I'll probably eventually have this army someday.
Of course.
Maybe not this.
Maybe next week.
maybe not next week. But it appeals to me. It definitely appeals to me. This is the I just want to roll dice. I want to just push some models around and roll dice and have some big stompy dumb fun. And I think their rules really support that. They're great blending of flavor and mechanics. Really simple to understand. Doesn't feel broken or busted to me.
No.
No, I think the balance is spot on. I think the rules speak to it not being that scary.
I mean, I think the presence of the army on the table will just changes the game. If you're fighting against Suns, you start playing a different game, I think, than most other.
Which I like. I honestly
yeah.
like, right? Yeah.
I don't know. It does warp the game, I think, and that's kind of my issue with them is especially for events, you have to be able to kill a Gargant in a turn.
Yeah.
Your army has to be able to, which immediately forces you to build in specific ways. And I do wonder what would the meta look like if this army just wasn't a factor. How varied would armies be? Would you be able to do more without having to pile damage onto take units that can do output because these guys exist? That's my biggest criticism of this army, is that it warps the game, and I don't know if it warps it in a good way.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it should be more than any other army. Every army, I think, should find ways to cater to the 3 different player psychographics, which I don't know if we've ever really talked about much on this channel, but it just appeals to different kinds of players. This is one that really it kind of is meant to funnel just to be the Timmy who wants to have big fun moments on the table, push around big monsters, still have some tactics and some big moments that can happen. And then that kind of if you cater to that kind of player, it doesn't need to be competitive, in my opinion. So
Agreed.
The problem is when it becomes competitive, which it has been at some points, and it's got stuff I'm kicking objectives around and yeah, that's a really cool, unique, fun mechanic, but it just totally changes battle plans. They need to be written with that in mind. So in 3rd edition, it seemed with the GHBs, they just decided, well, we're just gonna giants just don't get to play these. Here's all these extra rules, and they just don't interact with giants at all.
Yeah,
that sucks too. So I'm curious to see where they go with this. But I think if it's of middling power level, then I think it's the sweet spot. And
yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay,
the rules look good.
Steven,
I'm just not hyped for them at all. No, I'm D. I'm gonna be D no matter what this preview said. I just don't fundamentally like this army's existence in the game.
I'm splitting the difference.
I don't like playing against them. I find them boring to look at because it's all the same. It's just the same dude in the same pose with slightly different shit on him. I'm just I like that people, I'm happy that people like them. I will never be one of those people.
All right, strong words from a passionate young man. Okay.
I'm nearly 40, but thank you. I appreciate
from a
that.
passionate middle-aged man. Just like the rest of us. Okay, here we go. Sylvaneth, Brad, last but not least. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I've had a little bit of time since our review on Thursday to think about this. I want to be hyped. I really want to be hyped for Sylvaneth, but I think I'm in the low B's to high C's.
Okay.
We're kind of back to where we were in the 2nd edition book, where you have these stuff that interact with the trees, and you don't have any way of making the terrain act like the trees. Overgrown terrain was it fixed the army. It made it work the way it always should have, and we lost that. And so even though like I don't think when we look at these we shouldn't be like, oh, what I lost, because everyone lost something, you know. So like maybe it was extra. That wasn't extra. That was kind of core. Like I think the design team really loves what they've done with the faction terrain, and wants people to lean a little bit more into their faction terrain and the fact that you can interact with it in this like more general way. They want it to be a little more front and center in the armies, and so they went all in on that with Sylvaneth. But I think the combination of it's only a 6-inch range around those trees now.
Yeah.
You're only going to be able to get a maximum of 3. Probably still 3 like whole circles if you want to. We haven't seen the War Scroll, so we don't know what that means.
Right.
But even those, it's hard to put those down. So you'll have like one in your territory that's the 3 trees, and then maybe 2 individual trees out in that. I think like there's so much that can go wrong. And then when it goes wrong, you literally your allegiance abilities are just blank.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is a bummer, man. That's a real bummer. And so I want to really be excited. The War Scrolls, I think, are like Alariel, super happy with her. Just like I was happy with the Bloodthirster. Like I feel like she really finally does all the things that you think she should do. So we'll see Alaria on the table. I think that'll be fun.
We said this during our chat on Thursday. We said the biggest piece missing, and it's what you're saying, Brad, is excuse me. Are we going to see something that changes a piece of terrain into an Awakened Wildwood? Yeah. And are we going to see any other ways to get Awakened Wildwoods, right? Because you're right. It's even though we get the spell and the spell's unlimited, the spell only still facilitates you having 3 on the board at a time. And I just feel like you're going to need 5. I don't think 3 is going to be enough. And
and not only that, like it is an unlimited spell, but that's a spell cast. You had to spend one of your spell casts, and we don't actually have that many wizards.
Right.
You know, we've only got 4 or 5 wizards, and it really will depend on like how good those War Scrolls are. Like if you're not taking Alariel because she's whatever, which will be 600 points or something, then that's one of your wizards. So like am I spending all my time just trying to put trees on the board just so I can use my allegiance abilities, and then my opponent can unbind that, and then they can smash it, and then it's in the wrong place? There's this giant laundry list of things that can go wrong.
And she's a 3 cast, and her spell pretty much then resolves Tree Song anyway. So you kind of right now, Alariel is close to looking like a must-have in this army, because what you're saying, you need wizards. I guess the Warsong Revenant's probably going to be a 2 cast. You'll probably bring in some trees with him, and then hopefully he has. I mean, I'm guessing he's going to have his Mortal Wound Bomb, right? That's probably not going to change.
Yeah, he has right now in 3rd edition. He has essentially the exact same spell as the Branch Witch, and it's just the Branch Witch is harder to cast, but it has the exact same effect. So that'll probably change. They'll probably end up having 2 different War Scroll spells. I need to see more. Right now, I have to give it, I think, a C, just because with what I know, I'm worried that it'll not be very fun.
Yeah.
To have to do all the geometry with the trees, and then there's so many potential misplays.
Well,
there's so many counterplays.
I got to go get that objective, but it's not near a tree. Wish me luck.
Right. Oh, I already cast all 3 of my trees. I can't now, unless I have some way of like cutting down my own trees, like, yeah. So,
okay.
That's where I'm at.
Steven, any thoughts on the Sylvaneth? We gave you time to read it while we talked, but you just got to do an argument.
I read it. I watched you 2 talk about it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is kind of like for Idoneth for me. I was kind of hoping they would move away from the trees and move more into you turn the terrain into tree effects, because the only thing stopping me from owning this army is that I don't want to buy and paint a million trees because they suck.
Trees are easy to paint though.
Oh yeah, but the model's horrible and it's kind of hard to get a hold of, and it's weirdly expensive. It's like adding a $100+ tax onto your army just because you are playing Sylvaneth.
And you gotta travel around.
So yeah, and you gotta transport them. So I mean, I do understand the concerns. I think this is going to be one of the armies that takes a bit of a dip because I think they were probably too powerful. Their combos were just unstoppable in third. Like you had no reaction to them. They would be like, I'm going to sit behind my forest. I'm going to cast my thing. I'm going to use it to make Durthu charge and run. I'm going to teleport him across the board. He's going to kill your unit. Then he's going to teleport back here. And we're going to do that for 4 more turns, which was really not fun.
That sounds. I just didn't. I did not really have that experience with them. With any of my armies that I played, I tended to.
I don't know how you went to event, Zach, and didn't get Durthu'd. Like, I do not know how that happened. I got Durthu'd at every event.
It happens, but then like they get that off one turn, and then you kind of run them down. Like
how do you? Well, anyway, this is not the conversation for now. But like, I don't know how you run down a teleporting tree man that goes back from where he came from after he's deleted a unit, but.
Well, if you have Stonehorns that can stomp around the board.
Oh sure, yeah. If you're playing an army of giant monsters that have a 5 award, I'm sure it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not hyped about these guys. I guess I'm probably a little bit more hyped in. I'm hyped for them to get balanced and actually see other things on the table in terms of like unit variants.
Yeah.
Because I think Brad, you always played them very fairly. I think when we've played against them, you always played them in a very fair form. But like these are an obnoxious army at tournaments. Like you are right. They are really finicky and they are really combo dependent, which makes them really good for people to just abuse them. They're such an abusable book.
Super high skill ceiling, but also a really high skill floor. Like if you have to really master. Like we saw on stream, the first 2 games for me were just a complete disaster, and I had played the army before. But I just hadn't played their 3rd edition rules a whole lot, and I think that's still going to be true. It might even be more true.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I will say again to put a little bit of a silver lining here, or like there's a little bit of hope.
Sylvaneth lining.
Perfect. If the allegiance abilities being not quite so abusable means that the points levels can go down in general, then it'll mean that I can build lists that aren't quite as elite, and
it's
I can
a wildly
run
elite army right now. Yeah, it is.
Like
It sneaks up on you every time you bring a list. Or when there was a moment where I was like, maybe I'll do these guys instead of Deepkin, and I didn't want to because Brad loves the army so much. It's clearly one of your favorites, and I was building these lists, and I was like, oh my god! After you put hammers, you pay such a premium for hammers in this. Every hammer is so expensive.
But you had to because of the combo potential.
Right.
Of how you can deliver those hammers. Like if they didn't make those hammers so expensive, the army would be broken. They would just delete people.
We were when we played the Nighthaunt list, and it was like my hammers 20 Dreadscythe Heritage. It's 300 points. You have no hammers that are under 400, right? And it's like, and then your hammers don't always do much else, right? So like, it's
you almost have you hardly have any units that are below 200. Like
no, I think you said there were none. I think you said there were almost there.
The tree revenants and the spite revenants.
Oh,
the spite revenants were cheap. The spite revenants were the only unit that was below 100. But like your foot heroes are all like 140. So anyway, I'm hoping that will be rebalanced, and I'm sure 4th edition will get a little more expensive overall. And if Sylvaneth just stays put, then maybe it'll come out.
Maybe they're okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, need to know more, but right now I'm just not hot.
Guys,
I'm like B. I'm like a B for hype because I'm like, well, I think I'm excited to see them get adjusted.
Wait, you're B? Brad's a C.
Yeah, I'm B.
All right. We're gonna go with Brad since he's the guy on these. He's the pro. His anger counts more.
No, that's fair. And like Brad's version of playing this army, I get. But I'm hyped for this army to not be as ridiculous at events when people are trying to abuse the book.
I think I've always
I just always felt dirty like teleporting but
it is dirty. You should feel dirty. It's disgusting.
I don't. I feel like you just don't let up on them. You just keep going. Like you just keep going into their side of the board, and they start to just run out of options.
With Stormhounds that's fine. Like that's a fine strategy.
You know what? I guess. Interesting.
Picture the Bonereapers that have literally 0 reach.
Yeah.
Like they 0 reach out, and Durthu just goes bloop, delete, back, next turn, delete, back, and then the bugs come in and do the same thing.
Imagine what that would look
It's-
like in real life. By the way, it's kind of comical. Like I'm kind of imagining
it is weird.
I'm imagining like a jumbo cactar, honestly, from Final Fantasy VII, running out and attacking you real quick, and then just going back into the thicket.
Yeah.
Like what happened?
So silly.
I love the image of what it could be, where it's like that tree was actually Durthu all along,
Yeah.
and then it suddenly
sure.
starts moving and it chops you, and then right after it does that, it just turns back into a tree, and
You're
like that image is cool, and in a way I'd like almost rather have the mechanics try to tell that story a little bit better.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
You?
we did it. We had some other stuff queued up, but this is good. We got this done. I don't exactly know what we're doing Monday. We're gonna kind of see. Saray and I are on call, ready to queue up and do a show if the release from Warcom is good. Otherwise, we know we'll be back here next Saturday for another session, chat some more stuff coming down the pipeline. We're gonna have so much more information, presumably next Saturday. And like I said, we also want to show you guys what we've been up to. We took some pictures. We have some hobbying we've been doing a lot getting ready for 4th Ed. To be honest with you, armies, endless spells, all kinds of stuff, terrain as well. We're very excited to start streaming 4th Ed games soon. Brad, Steven, thank you for joining. I think we did it.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
A reminder to everybody else, our normal schedule, tomorrow at 10 in the morning, Megan and I will be working on her Croxagores. Monday, we do not have a stream in the evening. Our normal members only stream. This schedule in a lot of ways is interesting for me to have put up because it's almost completely wrong. And we're going to be finding out here in the future. We'll keep you updated. Just check our YouTube and our Discord. We'll let you guys know what we're doing in the near future. So I think that's it. We do want to thank our mandrills as always. You guys help support the channel. We super appreciate it. Please, on the way out, if you're new to the channel, give us a sub. We'll be covering a lot of AOS, and we will be covering a lot of AOS games. We have an exciting kickoff week planned with lots of games, doing some Spearhead, all kinds of stuff. So I think that's it. With that, let me make sure that the mandrill names circle all the way. There we go, back around. Nice, thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.